Boom, we're on. Let's do that. Get rid of that. Let's do this. Go up here, top display. That one? Yeah. Okay. What's up with Apex Legends? It's just not launching. Well, then we'll play this.
Oh hell no!
Chat, is this her saying that if your hands is bigger than your pee-pee? You're so sus, dude. Your hands is bigger than your pee-pee? Sorry, go ahead. If your hands are bigger than Noble, I think Noble knows. Okay, if your hands is bigger than your face, that means you're smart. How did it do? Shit, got her. Got her.
That is a scary thought, Chris. Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh.
Oh my, that is a very damaged.
Oh! Don't do that, Max.
Ooh, when you sub.
Christ. Just
Yellow hell is real, and I'm yellow Satan. Stuck here with all these plebs.
Greatness can come from small places.
We're only talking about the guy in yellow hell, and I'm stuck here. There's a fucking riot god.
Wait, what? This is so fucking weird. I hate dude, I hate leftists. I really do hate them. If you made a comment like this in my community, by the way, I would ban you. Stardust, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, tonight. My latest video essay, premiere here. Apparently it has to do with Frogan. Frogan's quote tweet, Destiny's cummies dried up for her LeMayo. What the fuck?
Time we tear it apart.
The poor people are gonna come back and add and be like, wait,
And if I have my way, it ain't gonna be the last.
Alright, are we back, Max? Wait, how could it be? Still warm? Still very warm? Wait.
Don't worry about ring
I
fry.
said the
We're
ass
in the next
people.
ring.
I didn't say poor people, right? I said ass people. I did not say poor people. There's no way. There's no way I said.
Charging my shield.
I said.
Don't worry about me.
I have a suggestion for a cheaper drink.
I'm listening.
I like to drink my own bathwater.
Amped up, ramped up.
Just shock him like a...
That's cool. So I actually don't have any bats.
I did not say poor people. said.
I have a suggestion for a cheaper drink.
I'm listening.
I like to drink my own bath water.
That's cool. So I actually don't have any bats.
Vito, I can hook you up with some.
Some bats?
No. Some bath water.
Okay, I'm good. But, you know, thank you.
You're welcome, Vito. I'm always here to help a man in need.
Yeah, I mean, I was thirsty, but I'm no longer thirsty. So I think you've actually cured it. Thank you.
Vito, I've been trying to experiment with streamer properties so I assimilate what humans do. I've been trying clapping.
Extended sniper mag here. Level 3.
Sorry, what? Huh? Parents? No way! Whoa! What's your name, bro?
Mike, I go by name.
Oh, shit! Nice to meet you, bro. They were like tagging me, they were like, yo, there's cops behind
We
you.
were watching this. No. I was watching the stream when he was with you before.
No way, bro. Shit, dude. I was like, oh shit, we gotta go.
I mean,
Optics here. Optics here. Sniper. There's a weapon supply bin here. I would love to take a peek.
Oh, they all just looked up. We're like, what the fuck?
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait for 67 seconds for the screenshot. It's gonna hit. It's gonna hit, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait for it. Don't pre-type. Gotta wait, you gotta wait. It's almost there. Oh my god, oh my god. 10 seconds left. 10 seconds left. It's happening.
Don't get so caught up in the past. Miss your chance at a better future.
Timer bugged. Timer bugged, guys. I'm sorry. It just skipped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
This is your champion.
I don't know what happened.
Peppa Pig? No more Peppa Pig. She's not allowed to watch Peppa Pig anymore. That little pig is such a little brat, and she like, I swear, Emmy like was more whiny when she was watching that show. Like, all Peppa does is cry and whine, and she's a brat, and she makes fun of her. Like, her dad pig is like a little heavier, and she like they like make fun of his weight, and I'm like, I don't think that's okay for children to like see that and think like that's okay. And so, and they're British and they say holiday, and Emmy was like, let's go on a holiday, Mom, and I'm like, we're done. We're done with Peppa Pig. We're absolutely done.
I'll help.
we're good. I'm on the right cannon. Permission to shoot.
Champion has been eliminated.
Your champions cannot resist.
Do I shoot? I can't hear you.
5 seconds. Ring is near. Ring's pulling up in 30 seconds, but we're close.
Sorry.
He won. Right. He was all.
Standard stock
I've
here.
heard him describe
Level
it.
3.
Rings around the corner. 10 left.
Take note. There's a new kill leader.
Start at the top of watch later. Oh no.
Looking for that.
Let's start with Emily.
This rhyme.
Standard stock here. Level 3.
Is my knife this bad or like?
Extended sniper mag here. Level 3.
Calling it a lifeline package.
Really like going as smoothly as his did.
Look at your map. I have located our antagonist.
I don't like it. I want to change it to happy music. It's making me cry in the club.
Care package being delivered. Looks like a care package is coming in. Big days in that.
Knife.
Got some extra supplies. Backpack here. Level 2.
Leveled up. It's upgrade time. Let's see. Pay attention. I need it.
Get bigger knife.
I'm upgraded and
Wait,
ready to
moment of
jam.
truth. Is that a bread knife? Bread knife. Chat. Is these ooh. Is this a bread knife? This one kind of a bread knife, right?
Take note. There's a new kill leader.
Let me try this one. Yes, super intellectual.
Listen up. We're spread out a bit. Watch your maps.
Ew. What the hell is?
Optics here. Close range. Dibs.
There's no way this cheese melts, bro. I'm scared. What's happening?
Barrel stabilizer
Press?
here. Level 2. Dibs. I need an extended heavy mag. Gotta hop up here.
I need to do
Boosted
this.
loader.
I just have to put American slices and grate the cheese. I don't have to freaking almost cut my hand off for the other recipe.
Bro, your knife is too
What?
fucking
Jump on. Get in.
wide.
For real. I don't know. Can we just keep the rhyme from the other side? Ah, beautiful. Okay, done. Now we make them into squares.
Forget it.
What are we doing?
I'm trying to think of how to do this. Maybe we
Hey,
cut
there's
it
people
in
off
half
here.
first.
Emru, are you pushing 25? Bro, I'm 26. What? Wrong order? What?
When I grew up, pretty much everyone I knew had blue eyes, so I assumed most people have blue eyes. Mathematicians call this sampling bias. Now consider that astrophysicists assume that the universe is like what we see around us everywhere. What if that's just as wrong as me thinking the entire world is blue? The idea that the universe is really not the same everywhere has been flying under the radar for half a century or so. But a new paper now looked at this idea from a fresh perspective and found that it could explain both dark matter and some unusual gravitational waves. Let's have a look. According to this idea, the universe is divided into cells with a structure much like foam, made up of many small areas and divided by thick walls. But since this is physics and not biology, the cells of the universe aren't called cells, they're called domains, and the walls between them are not cell walls, but domain walls. The easiest way to understand the idea is to think of a magnetic material. In a magnetic material, you have atoms that act like small magnets. They want to align with their neighbors. The warmer the material, the more thermal motion shakes the atoms around, and the fewer of them are aligned. But if the material cools down, you get larger and larger regions in which the atomic magnets all point into the same direction. These are called magnetic domains. In the universe, you don't create domains from magnets, you create them from the properties of a field called the axion field. The axion field has a particle associated with it, the axion, that has become quite popular as a dark matter candidate, but this is not what we'll talk about today. Instead, we'll just look at the axion field. This field would have been around in the early universe at high temperatures, and the idea is that when it cools, it doesn't do so smoothly, but it creates separate domains, the cells of the universe. These cells only differ by the type of vacuum inside of them. They're indistinguishable from the inside. It's kind of like when you're at Starbucks, then you can't tell what country you're in. But most of us do notice if we walk into a wall, and it's the same with the domain walls in the universe. You could measure that we're passing through those walls. This could happen because the Milky Way doesn't sit still. It's moving towards a place called the Great Attractor, where there doesn't seem to be anything in particular, though I suspect it's Pringles. Pringles or not, if we were to cross these domain walls, that'd make magnets all over the world slightly wiggle.
It's like we jump-started
However,
them.
this would be an extremely rare occurrence, and it's very unlikely we'd notice, so no one's really looking for it. The idea that the universe has these domains generally hasn't been pursued much because it leads to a problem. These domain walls carry a lot of energy, and their contribution to the entire matter-energy budget of the universe increases in relevance as the universe grows. At some point it would become measurable, so you'll have to tweak the model so that we can't measure it, or that it agrees with the effect that we assign to dark energy. The model adjustments are not super appealing. Before we talk about big space out there, let's talk about your space. With the Galaxy Projector, you can turn any room into a special place. It creates a colorful display of stars and nebulae, and I found it to be both relaxing and inspiring. And not only that, it's also a smart device. Let's look at some of the features. First off, its RGB colors, brightness, rotation speed, on-off timers, and many more are fully customizable. And no need to get out of bed. You can do it all from your phone. Better still, you can use voice commands with Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant. The Galaxy Projector also comes with a selection of color themes that you can choose from. And there's no need to worry about your electricity bill. This device is super energy efficient. The Galaxy Projector is a neat modern device with solid hardware and software, and it's just what science lovers like me, and maybe you too, need to chill. If that sounds good, make sure to get our special offer by clicking the link below and using the discount code Sabine to get 15% off. A new idea is that these domain walls were produced in the early universe, but they collapsed long before the first stars formed. This is what they look at in the new paper. They want to know what the consequences would have been. It turns out to be more interesting than you'd think. They say that the collapsing domain walls will leave behind a lot of small black holes that could be candidates for dark matter. These black holes would have a typical mass in the range of small asteroids or so, something like a few trillion tons. This is a mass range where they're very difficult to detect because black holes with that mass would have a radius of barely a nanometer, so we wouldn't have seen them. The idea that dark matter is made of black holes is generally difficult to make sense of because you'd need the black holes to be produced in a mass range where we wouldn't yet have noticed them, for example, by gravitational lensing. The domain wall decay seems to do exactly that, explaining why the black holes are
okay
in
over
the
there?
range where we wouldn't yet have measured them. They also say that sometimes the domain wall collapse would produce a baby universe instead of a black hole. Physics is wild, man. The domain wall collapse would also produce a lot of gravitational waves. with huge wavelengths. The interesting thing is now that there is a collaboration trying to measure exactly this. You see, the wavelength of gravitational waves depend on the size of the system they come from. Stellar mass black holes have sizes of some kilometers,
there people down there?
and the wavelength emitted from them are in the kilometer range as well. This is why gravitational wave interferometers on Earth have arms in the range of several kilometers. But for domain wall collapse, we're talking of much larger distances, light years and up, trillions of kilometers. The only way we currently know for measuring them are pulsar timing arrays. For this method, one uses the timing of pulsars that are neutron stars which emit particle beams. They rotate.
You want to go there?
And so this particle beam reaches us with an extremely reliable period. If you measure distortions in the pulsar signals from different directions, that can tell you whether gravitational waves stretch the space in between. And just last year, a group of physicists said they have very tentative evidence that they've measured gravitational waves with wavelengths that would fit to the idea that they came from domain wall decays. I find this a very interesting idea, though I have to say that they had to make quite some assumptions to make the size of the black holes come out in the right range and the gravitational waves to come out with the right amplitude. So basically, I find it a little too much to swallow. Then again, you know, I don't like any of the other explanations for dark matter or dark energy either, and this one isn't. Many thanks to our sponsors on Patreon, especially those that are in tier 4 and higher. This channel would not be possible without your help.
Let me get him!
You too can help us. Go check out our Patreon page or join our channel right here on YouTube. Every little bit helps. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
There's one inside at least. Chilling out in a fight is how you die.
If you're looking to record audio from a microphone connected to your computer via a
I'm an
USB
intense
audio interface,
motherfucker.
for example, into the DaVinci Resolve Fairlight page.
Enter my world.
Here's how you set that up. It's a little bit different than other digital audio workstation apps. Great thing about DaVinci Resolve is you can use the free version, or there is also a studio
I dropped a
version,
drop out there
which
for
has
you.
a few more features, but in either version you can go ahead and record, and here's how. So first of all, in
My drop's out.
system settings for sound, I need to select the audio interface that has the microphone connected to it that I'm going to record. In this case, I'm going to choose for both my input, the audio interface I'm using, which is the Volt 276 in my case. Also for the output, I'll choose the Volt 276, so I can also attach a set of headphones to it and monitor while I'm recording. Then once we've done that, we come over here into DaVinci Resolve and open a brand new project. Come first into the edit page, and you might say, wait, Curtis, I'm not going to do any video. I just do want to do audio. That's okay. We do need to just set one thing up here really quickly. If you don't already have the media pool open, make sure you click on the media pool, then come down into this area here, right click, and we're going to create a new timeline. And that will just allow us to create a space where we can make a new audio recording. We don't have to record any video. It's just going to be audio in our case, so don't worry. Go ahead and change the audio track type to mono. In our case, we're recording spoken word audio, voiceover track, if you will. And we really only need mono, but we'll also talk about stereo if you are recording a stereo track. But we'll go ahead and start with mono. Everything else we can leave as default and click create. All right, now we can come over to the Fairlight page, and you will notice we have this one track here, this one audio track. That's perfect for us. We're just recording a single mono track, and you can see right here, it is a mono track. That's what the 1.0 refers to. Now I just need to arm this track for recording by pressing the R button, but you'll notice when I do that, it flashes red for just less than a second and turns off, as if to say, no, you can't record. And the question is why can't we record? Well, we do need to come over to the input and tell the Fairlight page where to get audio for this particular input.
Where I wanted to go, buddy.
If you don't have the mixer,
he's right where I want to
go ahead
go.
and make sure you click on mixer so that shows up over here. We'll click on the input and then choose input. That brings us to our patch page. So what we need to do here is that we need to make sure that we have selected audio inputs on the left here for our source and track input for our destination. And what we're telling the Fairlight page here is for audio track number
there's a
one,
one guy out there,
here,
and there's the full team under me, and there's where's the other team?
In this case, I have the microphone connected to my Volt 276 in its first input. So I'm going to click this box right here. You'll notice that once I click it, it turns white on the outline. And this one's already selected, audio 1. If it wasn't, I could go ahead and select it and then click patch. And what I'm telling Fairlight here is the input number 1 from this audio interface, connect that to and send its audio to audio 1 track here in this timeline. So this audio 1 track is going to get its audio from the first input on the Volt 276. We'll close that. Now when we click on the record button and arm it, wow, it's getting audio from our microphone. Perfect. Now to start recording, I just click the record button like that, and you can see right here the waveform is coming in as we talk. We're now recording in the Fairlight page. If you want to go ahead and stop the recording, you can press the space bar or press the stop button. Either will do the job. And now we have our recorded audio. Now, what if instead of recording mono,
Shouldn't have given my position away.
A stereo track? Well, to do that, first of all, I need to have 2 microphones connected to my audio interface, or a stereo microphone connected to 2 inputs on my
Renox, baby.
And then what I can do is change this track type to stereo. So I right-click in the header here, change the track type to stereo. Now you can see it has a left and a right channel here. And what I also need to do is come back into the input over here, and I need to patch and tell it where to get that second channel, where to get the right channel. So we already have the left channel here.
From the mono
That's
microphone.
input number 1, and then we're going to get our right microphone connected to input number 2 on our audio interface. Make sure that both of these destinations are selected for right and left, or left and right, and then click patch. And you can see now, for this track, audio 1, the left channel is going to come from the first input on the Volt 276, and the right channel is going to come from the second input on the Volt 276. Once you have that patched, you can go ahead and start recording, and you'll get a stereo recording right here in the Fairlight page. Hope that was helpful. Get out there and make some great sound, and we will talk to you again next week.
This CPU is ancient technology by today's standards. One measly core clocked at just 1.8 gigahertz. Bleh. But when I was in grade 9, this Pentium 4 processor was crowned the benchmark destroyer by Maximum PC magazine. It ran Quake 3 at a blistering 226 frames per second. That is 18% faster than the very best that AMD could muster at the time, though it would have cost you an extra $450 today dollars for the privilege. Now, at that point in my life, my only source of income was the shiny loonie that my parents would give me for each wheelbarrow of manure that I hauled to the garden. So to say that this would have been out of reach for me would be a gross understatement. And even if I could afford the CPU, there is no way that I would have been able to obtain the supporting cast, starting with this premium Asus P4T motherboard with both software and hardware overclocking controls. One day, the price of all of this will come down, and I will build a dream machine of my very own. Well, guess what, folks? It's One's Day, and the pile around me might not look it, but in September of 2001, this was Maximum PC's dream gaming machine build. Dream being an excellent choice of words, since the total cost was about $5,700 US. That is almost 3 Vision Pros in today's money. It's a lot cheaper today, but eBay fees are still a trip, and I could use some help paying for all this from our sponsor.
Ridge, it's almost Father's Day, and Ridge is here to help you be the favorite child.
Okay, Google.
Nice for your dad at their
What time is my alarm set for?
Some items up to 40% off. Check it out using the link.
Okay, Google.
I showed you
Set an alarm for 4:30 p.m.
What about our eye-watering 256 megabytes of 800 megatransfer per second RD RAM from Samsung? That's right, it wasn't always DDR. RAM this memory was chosen for this build because of its smarter bandwidth utilization compared to DDR. In hindsight, it was not a great standard. It ran hot, it was power hungry, and generally performed worse per dollar, and went out of style just around the time this build was spec'd, but Hey, sucks to be us, I guess. Like modern DDR memory controllers, you could run RDRAM in dual channel for increased bandwidth, but it was just dumber. That is to say that if you only had 2 sticks, you had to install these dummy modules in the empty ones in order for it to operate properly. It was a
I want to.
Here's a bizarre one. At this stage in the game, aftermarket CPU cooling was more of an afterthought, with Maximum PC opting for the box cooler from Intel. Which isn't to say that PC cooling didn't matter, it was just more about taste.
You realize I'm being chased right now like a crazy man, right?
One of the big highlights of this build, the Cooling Master.
I don't know if you realize that, but yeah.
We had to reach out
Trying to
fellow
protect my
YouTuber
fucking life
Retro
here.
Machines, who made a video covering this case 10 years ago in order to get our hands on one. That is how rare this is.
I went over them. You're dumb as fuck. You're dumb as shit. There was a total of threesome on me.
Yeah, it's called hot drop, you fuck ass.
Yeah, it's called you guys folded up and died in your hot drop. Congratulations. Yeah, because my 2 teammates are folded up in a lawn chair dead. What are you talking about, bro? Have some self-awareness before you talk shit. You're the one who died in a fight after a hot trap that you wanted to go to. I'm a fucking 40-year-old man. You think I play Minecraft, you fucking child? Shut your dumb ass up. Minecraft? That's what you come up with? That's your fucking verbal game? That's how you insult me? Minecraft, buddy? What the fuck is wrong with you? God damn. Tell me you never played any real games before in your life.
Build the whole platform outside of the case.
Yeah, is this your first competitive game you've ever played, obviously? Because you're going out with Minecraft? Dude, what?
Now all you need to do is slide this into the case.
Okay, Roblox boy. Pull up your umbros.
Effectively locking the motherboard in. Guess you can see why these didn't last.
Maybe you could take your VTuber character offline for a minute there, buddy.
Fascinating to see how little the ATX standard has actually
fucking, your generation is so fucked up, bro. Minecraft, dude, I'm never gonna get over that one. Someone clip that.
Absolutely build a modern system in this thing. Of course, that isn't the exercise.
Wait, where's me?
It's been a while since I've installed spinning Rust as a boot drive in
I was going to get you up, I thought. That wasn't the goal.
Identical IBM DeskStar 60.
I am well aware what's happening, bro. That's why I'm trying to escape.
Then one of them showed up as not one of those, which is kind of an issue since Maximum PC calls for a very fast striped RAID 0 boot config. Except that they didn't know that DeskStars, especially the 75 GXP family, would earn the nickname Death Stars for their exceptionally high failure rates and would contribute to IBM divesting of its entire hard drive business to Hitachi just 1 year after the publication of this issue. So from my point of view, we should just appreciate the 1 in a million shot that one of these showed up in working order, run the system off that, and then our promised fast track 100 TX2 RAID card can just be. Now, as Maximum PC put it, rounded IDE cables provide no better performance, but they elicit.
Now let's see you shoot now that everyone knows where you're at. Oh, they're over here.
Show off the machine, and they felt this was well worth their hefty price tag. Now, this one's a little bit more ooh and ah, but hey, at least we also have some black wire loom to cover it up. Speaking of cable management, you guys should check out our sick new cable management arches at lttstore.com. Just keep the more powerful magnets away from your hard drives. Now we just got to figure out how to get the games onto the hard drive. It sure isn't going to be with the network port on our motherboard. Don't worry, guys, we are going to add a network card, but that isn't going to be how we install games. For that, we're going to need the TDK Velocity.
That's what I get for playing with kids like you.
That is hilarious. It offers up.
You gotta add to the champion squad and drug us down. Shut up, pussy.
40x.
Blah, 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 dude. You literally, how many times are you going to die in one game? At least twice, right?
Oh, my lifeline isn't helping. I'm sorry that you didn't get the help out, buddy. You're so good at the game, but I thought you didn't need help.
One of its killer features
My lifeline wasn't helping me. I need help, Mom. Mommy, my Minecraft. Mommy, can you launch Minecraft for me? I don't know how to do it by myself.
Without worrying about buffer underrun errors. With other drives, doing so much as interacting with your computer at all, depending on the overall speed of your system, would often lead to shiny but useless coasters. Back then, by the way,
That's where you revive me?
secondary optical drive to make the creation of backup.
Bro, go back to my... You're in... I'm in the fucking...
Favorite game installed on the drive while you created an
challenge to get away without shooting
that's
your
why
gun
we
is only
also
in
threw
Fortnite.
in
It's
this
not in Apex. Sorry,
Toshiba SDM1217 DVD drive. Rounding out our drive selections, the most exciting thing I can say about this Samsung floppy disk drive is that it's silver and sort of matches the color of our case. Thankfully, things get a little more electric when we move on to power. We've got the PC Power and Cooling Silencer 420. Okay, it's not quite the same as the 400-watt unit the magazine suggests, but come on, guys. Finding exact part number matches for e-waste from 23 years ago is hard, and this one is definitely nicer. In any case, this line of Seasonic manufactured units had a good reputation for both reliability
My drone's out if you
and
need it.
for quiet operation. I gotta say, it's kind of wild to me that 420 watts was enough to power an
You're a
entire
piece of
top-end
shit.
gaming machine. When we've got
What a
competing
dumb
CPUs
fuck
that will
you
draw
are.
Nearly that much today alone.
Yeah, next time you died, I'm not coming to get you, so I don't give a fuck anymore. Great assholes.
I guess this is the part in the build where we give up on the cable management and take a leaf out of Maximum PC's book. Yes, split loom wire covers. They were awful then and they're awful now. On the subject of things with very different power requirements today, it's finally time for the pièce de résistance. This Asus NVIDIA V8200 Deluxe, a GeForce 3 card with an AGP4X interface, 64 megabytes, that's right, 64 million bytes of video memory, and a rated 200 megahertz clock speed that, this variant, juices all the way to 270 megahertz. As if you guys weren't drooling already, it has 4 pixel shaders, 1 vertex shader, support for DirectX 8.1 and OpenGL, which brings us to all the other fun cards we get to install. I already talked about our IDE RAID card, but we've got 2 more devices. Our 3Com 100
There's 2 death boxes over here.
second network card, and ooh, this one's cool. Our Hercules Game Theater XP, which we're going to dive into a little bit more as we set up our audio.
40 years old, yeah,
First,
eyes look pretty
you
good.
need to see if this thing even works. Oh, that's a good sign. Oh, no, it's on. It's on. Yeah, give it a sec. Give it a sec. It's got this. Beep is good. That means I wired up the speaker correctly.
Yeah, me and Tom Brady both.
Hey, there
Fucking
we
weirdo.
go.
Tom's weird. Oh, he's not. He's pretty cool.
No, talking about a 40-year-old eyes, what are eyes supposed to give out when you're 40 or something?
Device selected.
You think that 40-year-olds are old, don't you? Tell me you're young without telling me you're young.
I was already pulling shit out of the death box and everything.
Okay. I know.
You were not pulling shit out of either death box until I was in front of you.
Windows ME.
How could I be mad that I'm old? I'm not old. You're an idiot. I just explained to you. What does that mean? That's because of wrestling in the NCAA. That has nothing to do with fucking being old, bro. That shit was starting.
Windows XP.
Yeah, no thanks. I'm not gay. Thanks for sexually harassing me on Apex Legends, you weirdo. You're a weird man. Really weird. Go hang out with Diddy.
For our monitor, we ended up looking over a few pages.
You, Diddy, and Drake fit right along together. Maybe that'll get it in your head, because that's what you kids understand.
The best consumer CRT ever made. This thing is so legendary, we made a dedicated video about it, and it is one of the only
You're not part of my generation.
setup that are actually worth more today than they were at launch.
What does that have to do with them being like you?
$1,000 for one in good condition, but at up to 1440p at 60 hertz and up to
You mean just because of our age? I'm talking about your behavior. I'm talking about your behavior because you're a sexually harassing weirdo.
Can I I make a comment about this mouse? Yeah.
You're a sexually abusing weirdo. That's what makes you like them. In case you couldn't make the neurological connection in your brain by your own, I know you need help for everything. Let me walk you there. Grab my hand and I'll hold you and lead you across the street, buddy. Holy fuck.
Can you hear that?
Because you can't understand logic without someone dragging you there.
Get out. It doesn't even appear to be all the vibration motor.
Yeah, good luck.
It looks like it has a big metal plate in it. I guess that was a feature? Thankfully, the keyboard choice was a little less polarizing. This is from Keytronic's Lifetime series, and it uses Keytronic's designer rubber dome switches supported with springs. These, were not
Trying to
favored by
bully?
keyboard
Is that what you
enthusiasts.
said?
Honestly, feels pretty cheap, but maybe
No, I don't. I'm listening to another fucking video through the same headset while you're talking because I don't want to hear people like you most of the time. So I'm multitasking. While...
You're not very good at it.
Oh, really? I'm not very good at it. Remember how you got fucking rezzed by me, you fucking weirdo? What do you mean I'm not very good at it? I'm not very good at it. I just do it all the time, but I'm so bad at it. Yeah, okay.
that I showed you guys before. You see the card.
How out of town stupid are you going to be in one game?
And a DB44
No, I'm just high. I smoke weed,
What
not
goes at
crack.
the other end of
Welcome
this
to the real
thick
world, buddy.
2-meter cable. This awesome external module. I'm talking analog 5.1 for surround sound speakers.
It's cool that you guys go from Minecraft to crack. Those are your insults.
And SPDIF.
Very original. Really hurt my
A
feelings.
game port for your joystick, and did I even mention it's got a 4-port integrated
It's not an
USB
insult.
hub?
What is it then?
This module
Why don't you
makes
give it a
Minecraft
definition?
everything
Hey, if you don't want to
much
fight people,
easier,
like you should
not
probably play a
just
game like
our
Minecraft.
audio.
You can play it on peaceful. You can just make sure that you don't have to fight anything. It's cool.
Of course, that is what we're going to use it for first, though.
What are you even talking about? I don't want to fight people? What are you talking about? I had to fucking res you.
It's about early in the game when you're running away.
Yeah, because I was running away because you were dead, so I was going to res you. I was living, instead of doing what you did, which was die, I lived and I resed you. Later on, I died after I resed you. If I had died right there, the whole team would be dead. Yep. I'm not going to shoot. I'm going to show you how much further I get with you without shooting, and then you can tell me how great you are at the game. Tell me how good you are. While you shoot all the bullets that you want and see who gets further, and then we can laugh about who gets fucking further. Because you're so great when you're shooting. If I started shooting, I'd be further along than you, buddy. Figure it out.
No, these things were legitimately awesome. Also,
I don't even know what Minecraft is really, buddy. That's the thing. That's why you're so out of town stupid. No, I didn't get mad at it. I was laughing at you. Yeah, I started saying, is that the type of insult that you come up with? That's your verbal game. That's how you come at people. That's the best you have to come at people with, right? Cool. What the fuck does that mean? I yell at everyone. I'm fucking from a generation where people raising their voices wasn't some sort of controversy. You little baby. Get over it. So do you get mad because someone has a fucking volume increase? What the fuck's wrong with you? Again, I'm also speaking over the other sounds in my headphones that you can't hear. Right now it's bass music.
16, and I had this. I was in heaven.
Did you yell at your wife?
I yell at everyone.
Maximum PC acknowledges though, not everyone has a living situation that's conducive to a giant, bulky
What?
5.1
What are you? You're out of town stupid. You are one of the dumbest people I've ever played with. Why are you sexually harassing me? Who wears a jock strap to wrestle? Are you that out of town? You're dumb as fuck, dude. Why don't you show up at a gym and find out? Go to any gym where a combat sport's going on and find out how tough you are. You're the type of guy who shows up and leaves the gym in 2 minutes. Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, I'm so angry. Listen to me, I'm mad.
Oh, look at this, Andrew. They're made in Ireland, just like you. Now, I've made one critical error in our configuration for Return to Castle Wolfenstein. I set it to my desktop resolution of 1600 by 1200, forgetting that, yeah, in those days, more like 800 by 600.
Yo, kill him.
Finish the game with 0 damage.
I told you I was gonna try to finish the game with 0 damage. Exactly what I said. I made it. I lasted longer than your buddy. I lasted longer than your buddy. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? There was someone dead before me, you dumbass. Your own. Yeah, go count the time up. Because I was already alive for the rest of the game from the beginning. No. Let's count the timer, because there's a time. Let's see how much long. You're gonna have to live for at least another 3 minutes to be able to outlast me, buddy. You've already died twice in one game.
No, man. In 2000.
Imagine insulting your friend like that. You're insulting your friend along with me.
What about a racing game though?
Yeah, I could get into that.
Oh my god, I'm so hurt! Dude, I must be bad at video games. My life must suck. I live with my mom in my basement, too. Oh my god.
No, I mean, just come up with every fucking unoriginal insult that you can. Tell me everything that every 5-year-old on Minecraft says, because you're used to playing on Minecraft, I don't have a mortgage, right? I paid off my house with my cryptocurrency earnings, you dumbass. Out of town stupid. My house is paid off, you fuck.
I feel like I'm in 2001, sitting in my dad's lap, operating a car.
Yeah, I just rented my house that I paid off 4 years ago. Oh my god, bought cash for. And I can't afford it. I have to let debt to the bank like you with my credit cards.
Here we go. Driving the Lotus Elise.
I fucking love this, dude. You guys are probably making more clips today than I fucking could make last week.
I can do this. I got this. I got this, brother.
Beautiful. Like,
Yeah, because I'm packing a bowl and I'm on push to talk because I play on PC, you weirdo. Get over it.
Playable, but you're not wrong. It's probably in the opposite day. Oh my god, I'm gonna take a shortcut. Oh, 0 points. 0 points for my shortcut. Why is it opposite? How dare you tell me I'm going backwards? I will tell you.
So far, I have positive 50 RP without having shot. But I need to go play Minecraft.
Let me race, brother. Is that a missile? Is it firing things at me?
You just won't let that go.
What do you think my heart rate is right now? I don't need to let it go because it was fucking hilarious, dude. That was the first insult you tried to throw at me. You think I'm gonna let you get over that?
But what about?
It says everything about you, not about me. Figure it out.
Meet the Microsoft Sidewinder Force Feedback 2. Now with more force feedback.
The fact that it
than
hurts
ever
you so
before,
much, I'm
not
gonna
to
keep
mention-
doing it.
Ooh, handle twist for immediate rudder control. A redesigned trigger. Man, this thing's freaking heavy. Oh wow.
Is that good,
And
son?
it even has an internal AC to DC power supply. This thing actually feels pretty good.
It's pretty nice. I like it.
Wow, that like feels pretty good. Destroy all enemy fighters to win.
Fire the guns.
Oh, no way! Oh, wait, I have no throttle. Okay, that's gonna be a problem. Come on, get over here. Oh my god, that is so cool! Oh, it's so visceral. Got him! See you later, Kestrel. That'll learn ya.
That's 70 mil gun.
Look at this, buddy. See you later! Oh, where's his shoot? Where's his shoot? No, he's dead. He's dead. Get over here.
Great shooting there, buddy. You're so good at
You
shooting.
just changed. Oh, yeah. We got it, boys.
See you later, buddy!
You're a freaking pro.
Hold on. Here's his parachute.
We could also play this game with this controller. I would suggest against it because that D-pad is something special.
Worst thing I've ever seen. It's off-axis. That's terrible. Sidewinder Gamepad Pro, more like Sidewinder Gamepad No. It's the sickest burn.
That was so good.
Bottom line, I might not agree with every single choice that Maximum PC made here, but thing is, hindsight's 2020, and realistically, if you traded your kidney for one of these back in 2001, you'd be feeling pretty darn good about it for a solid 6 months until something better came out. Obviously, at the pace technology moves, it is rarely a good investment, but I am blown away by how many of these components do still hold up reasonably well today, and the fact that any of them are still worth more than they were back when Maximum PC configured this thing. I'm also blown away by this segue to our sponsor.
Vessi, Here in Vancouver, the weather can be unpredictable, but thankfully Vessi makes it easy to prepare for unpredictability. They claim their shoes are fully waterproof thanks to their Dymatex technology, so even the heaviest of rainfalls don't stand a chance. Their Stormburst lows give you the protection of a boot while maintaining the style and comfort of a sneaker. If you enjoy walking through nature, the outsole provides extra grip to help you climb over those mossy logs. Don't flip, you won't. But even for city treks, you don't need to worry about slippery sidewalks. So stop checking the weather report before checking your shoe shelf. Head over to vessi.com/LinusTechTips and get 15% off your first purchase.
If you guys enjoyed this video, how about checking out the one where we built my personal rig from my teenage years? It wasn't as good as this one, but it was what I could afford.
So a few days ago, AMD launched the Ryzen 7 8700F and 8400F processors, and I absolutely hate so much about this. For one thing, look at this slide. They're comparing it against Intel's 14400F. Now, why do I have a problem with that? Well, the 8700F is coming in at $269, and I did double check major retailers, and yeah, like here it is at Newegg, I can buy it for $269. Whereas Intel's Core i5 14400F is currently available at several major retailers for $200, meaning that these are just not even remotely in the same price category, which makes this a really frustrating graph to look at. So yeah, we're slightly faster in these things and cost a lot more. Cool. Now, I have a lot of other problems with this. Again, basically, the 8000 series of AMD processors is APUs, but this F indicates that the graphics have been disabled, which was the main reason why those were interesting, so these better get a big enough price cut, right? Well, more on that in a second. But first, we need to talk about a huge mistake so many people make when they upgrade their gaming PC setup, and that is they do not think about the chair they will be sitting in the entire time they will be using it, and that is absolutely crucial. Your lower back will thank you if you get a high-quality ergonomic chair.
Holy
like
fuck,
the
you
one
did
I
that?
got from
Good job.
Spot with their C7 ergonomic chair when they sponsored me a couple of months ago, and today they just want me to update you on how it's gone. Well, it has been great for my lower back. My favorite thing about this chair is the self-adaptive back support that you can tune to your liking.
Heal before loot. Heal before loot.
Adjustability. It's amazing to be able to get a chair that can just fit you just right and give you that proper support. The downside has been that my wife liked it so much, it's ended up in her classroom. So luckily, FlexiSpot has ended up giving me another C7, and the only difference I made, because I love the C7 so much, was I did get the mesh bottom instead of the foam bottom this time, because I really like the breathability of the mesh. That has been really nice. And the best thing is FlexiSpot is having their brand day sale once a year now with up to 60% off. It's the best time to get your favorite chair or desk now. Use the exclusive code BDC7 and purchase the C7 now and enjoy a $30 discount. And FlexiSpot backs their chairs with a 30-day return policy and a 10-year warranty, so you can try it out with confidence. Okay, so once again, basically these 8400F and 8700F APUs, well, they're not APUs, sorry. They were APUs, but the APU was disabled. In other words, AMD has garbage left over from their APUs where the APU presumably didn't work, but we still need, you know, they want to make money off of that silicon, so what are they going to do? They're going to sell it anyway. But at what price? And that's where I'm having problems with this. So if you look through their launch materials, they're talking about you can focus your resources on the best graphics card you can buy. So they are acknowledging that these do not have the graphics in them. That is what made the 8000 series interesting for certain use cases. If you want to look at the overall specs, we see that the 8700F is an 8-core 16-thread processor. You can
putting my drop out, and I'm going to get 2 more. For one more, I got 2 accelerants.
Some bigger issues. We'll talk on more.
Don't leave me.
And again, some of the other specs here is an up to 5 gigahertz max boost clock, which is not super high, and 24 megabytes of cache, which is also not a lot. And then it's a 65-watt part. Now, it is AMD Ryzen AI ready, so hey, I guess at least it has that. Now, the Ryzen 5 8400F is up to 4.7 gigahertz boost. This is 6-core 12-thread, 22 megabytes cache. Now, why do I have such big issue with those specs in particular? Okay, so here's the thing. If I wanted to buy the 8700F, okay, $269. Now, what if, rather than even comparing against Intel or anything like that, I just compare against AMD? What if also on Newegg, I decided to buy the Ryzen 7 7700, which is also an 8-core 16-thread part. This is $282. So in other words, it's almost the same price. Once you're spending, $270, what's another $11 or $12? So what do we get in exchange? Well, again, they're both 8-core 16-thread parts, so you might not feel like it matters. Maybe you feel like you're getting a good deal, and hey, this number starts with an 8, so this must be better, right? And that's what's really frustrating for me, is that I know that many people who see this name and who see this name are going to assume that 8000 series better, and then buy that. Problem is, look at the cache difference, right? So the 7700 has 32 megabytes of L3 cache, and the 8700F has 16 megabytes of L3 cache. It has 8 megabytes
Where you
of
guys
L2
at?
cache, which is the same amount of L2 cache. But the L3 cache is cut down significantly. Now we know that L3 cache makes significant differences in gaming performance. That's the whole point of products like the X3D chips that are such good gaming processors. And also, the Ryzen 7 7700 does have an iGPU. Now, it's
Well,
not
at this
enough
point,
to
I'm
really
staying
play
here. I asked you
games
guys
on,
not to
but
leave
you
me.
can at least get display output, which means you know, if you weren't gaming on this thing, you might not need a graphics card. Or even if you are, it's nice for troubleshooting and things like that. It's a nice to have. So basically what we're seeing here is that the 8700F costs roughly the same price as the 7700 on the actual current market. It has no integrated graphics, and it will be significantly
I'm leaving that
slower in gaming
replicator too.
performance because of the reduction to L3 cache. Now, another potential issue is, so I actually again pulled up AMD's specs page, and I was curious also about the PCIe situation, because that's what I thought here. Yep, PCIe Express version 4.0. So the thing about the 8000 series chips is, again, they were originally designed around having graphics built into them. And there's some trade-offs that need to be made in order to fit that in, including a reduction of the PCIe lanes and again, supporting Gen 4 rather than Gen 5. So there are some major cutbacks here compared to AMD's 7700. And again, the issue being that these cost roughly the same, but unfortunately, I think, again, a lot of people who don't do a lot of thorough research, you're just buying a computer and it says 8700F, you see 8000 instead of 7000, you're just gonna assume it's better, and I hate that. Anyway, what about the 8400F? Is this one also going to irritate me? Yeah, I think so, because what could we stack this one up against? Well, you know what? Let's just go here. So, if I wanted to buy a Ryzen 5 8400F, I could get it for $169, so it is available at that price. And if I wanted to buy a Ryzen 5 7600, I could buy one for $189. Now that's a little bit wider of a price gap, so we're talking $189 versus $169, so it is a $20 price difference. But again, notice the L3 cache. So the L3 cache here, 16 megabytes L3 cache on the 8400F, and we're getting 32 megabytes cache on the 76.
Team over here, team over here.
So I just really don't see these making any sense at their current pricing up against AMD's own products.
I was just trying to open boxes for you guys.
Let alone the issues
I'm
that I
going up here
have
to
with
hang
them,
out.
like trying to advertise against Intel's 14400F, which costs significantly less than the 8700F here.
He might have
So
run away
long
when I
story
saw me.
short,
But there's
AMD is
a bunch of
trying to
boxes
sell
that haven't been
silicon
looted.
that has the supposed to be
yeah,
an
there's a
APU, or the
there
main
was a
selling
target over
point
there
is the
somewhere.
integrated graphics that are available for it. and yet the integrated graphics didn't work. So now
Here's
they're
a
trying to
drop
sell
for you
it
guys.
Garbage. But that actually makes sense. We don't want e-waste. But the price needs to make
On
sense.
you.
And what I don't like here is at these prices, I think, and with these names, a lot of people could be tricked into thinking that this is better than what it is.
We gotta move.
For a gaming situation, especially when they're advertising it for a gaming.
I'm moving all the way
performance
down
and
and
everything
out.
like that. So I am just not at all a fan of this. Now that doesn't mean these couldn't be good at the right price. If the prices went low enough, then these could make sense. Now the last thing I will mention is that compared to the 7000 series, which I'm arguing that most people should
How many
have
what?
instead, these do have the
I don't know. Come to me and I'll heal you. I don't give a fuck about damage. I give a fuck about winning and living.
processor thing going
Sorry,
on
go to
there.
war and tell me how much
Again,
damage did you do.
whether
No one
that
gives a
ends up
fuck
being
about how much
useful
damage you
for
did. They care about you coming back home alive.
kind of
I don't care. What? Don't you know how strategy works? You dumb fuck. You think that strategy is different in video games than it is in war?
Certainly not anything I use.
You think that dying is a good thing in video games?
Experiences enabled for AMD Ryzen AI available today.
I mean, goddamn. You think KD is everything?
Again, these just aren't things that I use or test, so but I will mention.
You don't run away from war? Yeah, it's called the non-aggression principle. You do. You actually try to avoid war at all costs. That's why war is used as the last option, isn't it, you fucking child?
Something that would matter for your use case.
That's why you do the bare minimum for our society. Shut the fuck up. You talk a big game and you've never been to war and you try to talk like you'd go to war. Shut your ass up.
Maximizing your gaming performance for getting.
You're a child. You sound like a child. You act like a child. Everything you say that comes out of your mouth shows that you are a child.
Hopefully the prices come down on the actual market in what makes sense. Because again, the difference between the 8000 series and the 7000 series is the 7000 series generally makes sense.
Your mic is bad. I can't even. I hear like every other word that you say, and none of it means anything to me. You're literally blowing it out. You're blowing it out right now, buddy. It's a Sunday afternoon. What are you talking about? What do you want me to go? You want me to go to Ukraine right now? What is wrong with you, buddy? What have you done? Literally, all you do is run your mouth. You run your mouth like every fucking kid of your age that I've seen. You are absolutely muted, dude. Absolutely. I can't listen to your mic, dude. That's how you sound, you fucking weirdo. You're a weird person. I'm muting you now. Goodbye.
So there it is. It is actually available at that price point if you're interested. In other NVIDIA news, it looks like they have their RTX video super resolution, which is for basically trying to upscale streaming video, is now available in Mozilla Firefox. So we're getting Firefox support for RTX video stuff. I've reported on that technology in the past, so now it's mostly just saying, hey, it's supported in more web browsers, which is good stuff. We're seeing some new GPU cooler models. I'd already reported on the Phoenix Nirvana GPU from XFX, originally on the 7900 XTX. It's looking like it's getting a 7900 GRE and 7800 XT variants as well. These are white GPUs. So there's that. Also, we're seeing that Sapphire will be having a 7700 XT Frostpunk 2 edition launching in July. So if you're interested in Frostpunk 2 or just like the look of the card, there you go. It does certainly have a cool look to it, in my opinion. Now, in other interesting things with a cool look to them news, Aya Neo is unveiling their retro reshape handheld and mini console lineup. So one part of this is a external GPU that they're calling, I think, their Starship design. But this has a Radeon RX 7600M XT in it. But would be an external GPU, and I think it can use the.
Where the fuck are these guys? There's only one squad left. What is going on?
Here, which is interesting as a connection type.
I'm gonna try to flank them from behind.
I don't know. So don't actually quote me on that. I might be wrong. You want to double check that if you're buying it for that. Anyway, it looks like there's some other cool designs on here as well. If you're interested, thought I'd just kind of throw that out there as being interesting. Now, one thing that I'm personally finding very interesting is the 4K 240Hz OLED monitors that have been launching, and I have not quite pulled the trigger on one yet. One of the main things I'm waiting on is some more reviews on the Gigabyte FO 32U2P. Now, why am I interested in this one? It's the only one that has DisplayPort 2.1 connection. Now, Monitors Unboxed is apparently working on the review of this, but prior to launching the full review, they are doing a video on DisplayPort 2.
Way to fold up and die, both of you, before and left me alone to fight people on by myself. Good job, buddy. Great gamers.
For one of these monitors. Now, why would anybody care? The main thing is that 4K 240Hz cannot be run without display stream compression on a normal DisplayPort 1.4 connection or HDMI 2.1. So the full bandwidth required does require DisplayPort 2.1, and yet none of the other big brands launching these besides Gigabyte has a DisplayPort 2.1 option. Now, one reason for that is that almost no graphics cards exist that even have a DisplayPort 2.1 output. You might be like, what about AMD 7000 series? Okay, they have DisplayPort 2.1, but they don't have UHBR20, which is the 80 gigabit per second mode. Now, the problem with that is that the lower bandwidth versions would still require display stream compression. So DisplayPort 2.1 is a bit of a complicated standard, and if you want to learn a lot more about it, I will link all my sources in the video description today, and this Monitors Unboxed video goes into a lot of depth on all of the differences, as well as looking at some side-by-sides of what if we just use display stream compression, and at least in his opinion, there was no visible difference that he could spot on anything. So basically, the conclusion here is that for most people, it's probably not a massive selling point. However, it would be a nice to have feature if the monitor itself was also just good otherwise and well priced, which is why I'm waiting for more reviews on the monitor to be out. Because personally, I would really like to have it. Just because as the next generation graphics cards come out that would have the full DisplayPort 2.1 UHBR20, at least they might, it would be cool to have that available. In other words, I'd rather have it than not. But he goes into a few other little issues as well throughout the video. Anyway, I'd recommend checking it out. If you're wondering how he's running it anyway, the Pro series of AMD GPUs does have the full UHBR20, at least on one particular model, so you can run it. Another issue being the cable length that actually operates at DisplayPort 2.1. There's a whole bunch of stuff going in here. But anyway, it's looking like some more information and testing is getting out there on DisplayPort 2.1. And I'm here for it. I'm really interested, waiting for full reviews. I will eventually let you guys know which of these 4K 240Hz OLEDs I end up going with. But anyway, let's get to the last few news articles here. We're seeing that Xbox Game Pass, which could affect PC users, because again, you can get Xbox Game Pass PC or like PC Game Pass. Did they rebrand it? I don't know. Anyway, it's looking like there could be tier changes and possibly pricing changes incoming if it ends up being true that Call of Duty ends up on Xbox Game Pass. Because I think, at Microsoft, they're probably pretty worried about, okay, so we have Call of Duty now, which can basically print money, but we also want people to subscribe to Game Pass, so it would help if we put Call of Duty on Game Pass, but then what if Call of Duty doesn't print so much money for us anymore? Well, maybe we should increase the price of Game Pass to get access to Call of Duty. I don't know. Anyway, so at this point, it's mostly rumors, but there's a lot of insiders saying that there will be an adjustment to tiers and potentially also pricing as part of launching Call of Duty on Xbox
Scrappy
Game
DP
Pass.
says,
so that's a whole
Dog
big thing.
Pound.
In other game
Weirdo.
rumors that I'm interested in, looking like Total War may get a Star Wars game on the way. Now, that's not huge news or anything other than I personally find that interesting. So I thought I'd let you guys know as well. Now, another thing that was interesting, so I tested out, and a lot of other news outlets are reporting on it, that Ghost of Tsushima on PC does allow the use of DLSS upscaling comboed with FSR3 frame generation at the same time, whereas previously official implementations of FSR3 didn't allow that, although modded versions did. Now I'm curious if this means, like, because that was announced as part of FSR 3.1, where they would decouple those. But I didn't see any, like, official announcement that this is an FSR 3.1 implementation, so I wonder if it's just been that piece has been separated out but not the upscaler. So that's just kind of a bit of a question mark on that. But in general, if you didn't watch my video on it, I do think that Ghost of Tsushima is a very performant PC port. Runs pretty smooth, not a lot of stuttering issues, all of that. I'm getting good experience on my Steam Deck. So that's all great. Also, it seems like PC fans are absolutely embracing the game, because this is live right now as of the time of filming, sorting PlayStation Studios games on Steam database by their peak online player count. And Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is currently now has surpassed even God of War, meaning that the only peak player count that it is currently behind is Helldivers 2. Although, while its peak is behind Helldivers 2, notice that the current player count is actually within 1,000 of where Helldivers 2 is currently, as of today. So anyway, it's looking like a very, very successful launch for Ghost of Tsushima on PC. You wonder how much more successful it could have been had it launched in all regions, rather than being region-locked due to PlayStation Network not being available in some areas. To be clear, you don't need PlayStation Network to play Ghost of Tsushima on PC. It's only for its multiplayer mode, which I would doubt is most people's main draw to the game. However, unfortunately, it's not listed for sale in regions where PlayStation Network isn't available, which to me seems like a huge oversight, and just like, I don't know what Sony's thinking on that. Anyway, I hope they're not working toward trying to make their own game launcher or
Papyrus Dealer says,
store or
Scrappy.
something like that for PC.
Papyrus Dealer
I don't think
says,
that would be received well. But anyway, last thing I'll leave you with is it looks like PC users may finally get Red Dead Redemption 1, not 2. Now, this doesn't have any confirmation. What this seems to be coming from is a mention of it launching in a Rockstar's launcher site file. So there's strings referencing a PC version for Red Dead Redemption in
Papyrus Dealer says,
strings of
thanks,
text in
Scrappy.
Rockstar's launch site file. So that's all we have, but that is interesting. So it would be cool if we did finally get access to Red Dead Redemption on PC. I'd love to see it anyway. All right, that's the news I've got for you guys today. Huge thank you
Papyrus
to everybody
Dealer says,
for watching the
over
video.
there doing gold
Huge
lobby
thank
stuff.
You to viewers, subscribers,
Papyrus
commenters,
Dealer
channel members
says,
who click the
come
join
on,
button
lock
to
in.
directly support the channel financially.
Papyrus Dealer
Absolutely
says,
huge if you can
I
do
am
that.
a friend.
Totally understand if you can't. Just hope everyone has an excellent day.
Papyrus Dealer says, no.
Okay. Because you are the 100%.
Papyrus
owner.
Dealer says,
And
just
while
run.
you were regaining,
Papyrus
taking
Dealer says,
control
no.
from that leadership at that
Papyrus
time,
Dealer says,
Kirsch
that's
was
not
still
good.
Around the company, he's been around the company since day one. Right. He was your. I've heard him describe.
Papyrus Dealer says, Nuwayuwayuupi.
It's a funny, yeah.
Okay, if we take that as a character.
Papyrus Dealer
So he
says,
was around, so
brother.
when you
Papyrus Dealer says, OMG.
leadership at the time and took over control again, 2-year period. Kirsch was around, but you decided no, you were the man for the job. And
Papyrus
then,
Dealer
2
says,
years later,
THX.
you decided you preferred engineering to leadership.
So we, at 2017, I also spoke to Natasha Moscow what to do, who to appoint. But at the time, because I said it was the situation in the company, it was intense. So I had to take over the
There's people coming. If you don't get to this gap quick and start moving to your right, you're gonna get trapped.
Okay. Now,
so 2019.
Yes.
So 2019.
Yep,
we again
exactly
spoke
like I
with
said.
Natasha. We talked about it. What would be the best course of action for the future? Excuse me. And we found that that I would be again going back to the things I love the most, right?
The fuck is that? What the fuck is that on the distance shimmering?
Papyrus Dealer says, thanks, Scrappy.
In the early days, you had less than 20 people, and then you expanded to something more like approximately.
Papyrus Dealer says, thanks for the comms.
What is the headcount approximately today?
Today around
Papyrus
100.
Dealer says, when I needed them
At what
most.
point did you expand into the USA as a separate company? I presume you've been shipping products to the USA for a very long time, but when did EK Cooling Solutions or some other entity, when was that under your direct leadership or one of the other CEOs?
I think it was 2018-ish or 2017. I think it all went naturally. USA is our biggest market, and we wanted to serve our biggest market closer. We want to be closer. So that's why we opened there
the ring is a
company.
far distance. 1 minute remains.
Firstly, to support the local, basically the local market, right? Huge market, right? Yeah. And then we, of course, looking what could we add.
Papyrus Dealer says, maybe crap me.
That others don't.
Papyrus Dealer says, it's close.
We were talking with the SIs.
Papyrus Dealer says, like right there.
What can we do? We were proposing them with different things, different ways of having fully liquid cooled computer, and it just didn't add up the way we think. We thought the potential was a lot bigger. So at 2018,
Papyrus Dealer says, res.
First line of
Papyrus Dealer says,
that was basically the from that point the biggest focus for our USA operations, to serve customers with.
Papyrus Dealer says, I'm out.
And
Papyrus Dealer says, peace.
The company, or the company, or was she the CEO of the American company at that point?
So Kat, first when we opened it, Kat was not the CEO. But after we were looking how to expand, how to take advantage of such a awesome market. Kat also joined us.
And when you opened EK Cooling Solutions or your American operations, is that wholly owned by
Yes.
EK? So you are the owner of anything that says EK.
Yes.
You are the ultimate guy.
That's a good statement. Yeah, basically everything that is.
There is a team in here. Don't come this way.
EK is owned by EKWB. This means me being 85%.
And as we know, Gamers Nexus made quite a big deal about this $5 million loan, which would appear to be from Eddie's right-hand pocket to Eddie's left-hand pocket. Presumably that money is to set up operations in America and to finance American operations. I believe EK has an annual turnover in the order of 10 million euros, dollars, something like that. And you're a manufacturing company, so clearly you have overheads. It's not advertising. So $5 million, and that's one line item. Presumably there are others. That is a significant annual turnover. Presumably it's your annual profit, or even 2 years of profit. That looks like a huge sum of money.
So
what happened there?
So let me first correct. So during the COVID times, EK had 50 million euro revenue.
Okay.
So
5 million is significant.
Not. It's a significant amount of money. It's a huge amount of money. I'd love to have this right now in my pocket, but I don't. And we have invested this money throughout the years to develop the USN market with fully liquid cooled gaming computers, and now, which is basically our biggest selling product, are fluid gaming, FluidWorks. So fully liquid cooled workstations with up to 7 GPUs.
Yes, and I've seen those systems at previous shows.
Going back to those 5 million, right? So we have been investing in the operations, and it's not true that we have. So there was a statement that CS was doing work for the headquarters without being paid. Basically, it was the other way around. which was in the biggest, with the biggest expansion of 250 people. We're doing a lot of things for the USA operations, and investing, and them saying that we have been building the company. It's not true.
Okay. Well, clearly I can't interrogate you on the specifics, but I understand your
Looks
pushing
like
back
a care
against the point.
package is coming in. Big dings in that.
In that case, it sounds as though the American operation was a money pit. It was a black hole. You seem to have put a huge amount of money and resources into it, and as you had to shutter the operation and use a subcontractor, I mean, is the word disaster too strong, or have I got the wrong end of?
So that the biggest investment in Nikisias was done when Matias was leading the company, and it definitely wasn't under control. So this was one of the main reasons why I stepped in there.
You made a statement, and I'm going to quote: "The new management distances itself from the practices of the past, presumably Kirsch." Fair enough, but there is the fact, isn't there, which is that throughout you have been, it's your name, it's you, all these different...
INK, okay.
You will understand, I'm European, we're in Europe, however, the American operations have been a big focus of the Gamers Nexus video for understandable reasons. Without fingers, any
1 minute till close.
problems to do with labour laws, staff wages, whatever might come out of it, taxes.
Taking a knee. Patching
Is
up.
that in the hands of Kat Silverstein?
45 seconds. Rings just up
CEO
ahead.
Americas, or is that being handled by
Everything, as you said, it's EK, and I cannot leave because there is also my name. Right? Do not let me themselves. We're in this together, solving this together, and maybe things like allegations that were on the US operations, right? So the first thing is that we did not close the US operations. We just optimized it. We just restructured it, right? So in the Texas we had huge operation. I mean, huge from the square foot size, right? And we couldn't stop the lease, end the lease sooner, so we had to prolong it. But when the lease stopped, it was the right time to do the optimization. And we used our trusted, good business partner to do some part of it for us.
There's obviously been a suggestion, there is no more than a suggestion, that one of those two people being SwiftTech, being of course Kat Silverstein's former employer. Arguably, it's she's working with friends, arguably there might be something shady going on. No knowledge of that. On the face of it, if you shutter your operations and you subcontract going into one of the very few companies who can handle that work, it makes sense. SwiftTech seems like a perfectly reasonable choice. But the timing you're saying is down to the lease on your premises and therefore the move from one state in America to a different state in America and not using your own employees but using a subcontractor home. That's
I'm the jump master.
Approximately. But let me add more things about this. So it's being when I spoke to
I suggest this landing location.
People, I started to understand why they're so jumped when they heard we didn't pay overtime, right? We didn't had a good work environment. So based on the overtime, this is I say we land here. For extensive
Landing in this area yields a high probability for success.
Is that there were people who had from
Get ready, moving out.
overtime throughout the whole year on average. Not a good work environment. So the overtimes. This is I have asked for extensive report. And the report I got is that there were 10 to 30% overtime on the app throughout the whole year on average. Right? That is one thing.
And were paid.
Those were paid. Yeah, that were paid. And we specifically opened a dedicated channel email to address this. So anybody who has open claim for the overtimes, contact us. In 3 weeks, none of them came.
Oh, okay. In that case, would you please repeat the email address if you can remember it? And so far you have had no response to that, and that's some 3 weeks or so late.
It's reachout@ekwb.com. It's also in our PR. So, no.
And without wishing to be facetious, because this is quite serious, you've checked your junk folder. These emails, no one sent emails. If anybody comments below this to say I've sent email and you're saying they haven't, then okay, fine.
The email goes to number of staff, so we have not missed anything. If we have missed whatever, if it has been rejected, whatever, I think there are many ways that people can contact us.
Indeed so, but the fact you're stating, so I was aware you'd done the reach out, but if you're saying after 3 or so weeks you've had no, well it's a revelation.
Exactly. For the work environment, we had their local American COO, let me say, chief of operations, and he was the one who would need to take care of this. And the photos that was there, they look strange, right? So if anything would have been reported, we would take actions.
Okay, but in addition to that, America
The
has their own health.
fuck, are you saying you're not
I believe
connected?
It's OSHA. So therefore, presumably, if there are allegations made by employees in an American state, and the system will proceed. There have been allegations about EK's treatment of staff. As we know, they fall into two camps. There's the European attitude to Americans, supposedly, and then there's also been an allegation of racism. A guy has come forward to Gamers Nexus, naming himself as Jamari, and stating that he is the only black American employee at CS. So he therefore concludes it was him. I don't know, Jamari, you do. What's the situation?
So as far as I know, and as far as I met, Jamari is a wonderful guy. We had fun. What I can say is that if that happened, we were not there. And I want to say that it supports diversity, supports and does not support any kind of discrimination, any kind. And if anything is reported, we take this seriously. So nothing. There is no way nobody to take action. So anything that is reported, we take immediate action.
And the screenshots that we saw in the Gamers Nexus video, which were, I'm assuming, taken by Dan Henderson, in fact, at some point in internal conversation, screenshots.
Where's my dude at?
Don't lie. So words were used. What action have you taken?
So first of all, I want to say that this was product related thing, and when we saw this, when this was reported, and this case was reported, we take all the actions came to our supervisors. So they got an oral reminder that's not right, and do it again. And it hasn't happened after that.
Okay, I think it's fair to say that there were some general statements made about treatment of staff which appear to break down the American.
There's two coming.
And then
Just run, please.
Specific thing with Jamari as the Black American. Those two things have a slight divide. Is there a cultural issue between the Europeans and the Americans?
You understand? understand the cultural difference between Europe and America, right?
I'd like to hear your take on it.
So, but I think we went too deep into this because there was no intention of doing it. And it also was not reported.
Non-binary
from the side.
transsexual Ace
So,
Watson says, OMG Lifeline.
Neither me, neither Cat knew about this. And if we knew, or anybody who would be in the leading would have taken actions.
So, until the Gamers Nexus video dropped, that was the first you'd heard. Okay.
About the situation in America.
Okay. I think a big question to wrap up is what changes do you feel you need to make and what would the time frame be for those changes?
Okay, so I would split this into two phases. The first phase is basically what people always do. The first step is and step in as a CEO. That was the first one. So the second thing it was to we made an analysis. What did we do wrong? And one of them was we were just focused on too many things. The other thing is that the management thought that this growth is going to last forever.
In this context, the management was Kirsch in the COVID era.
So, and didn't take the necessary precautions to mitigate this, right? So that's the one thing. So, and we wanted to grow from own capital, and it didn't work out well when the demand started to go down, right? And because of that, the total operation size was just too big. So that's the first phase. And when I stepped in, the first thing that I did was change. We're going back to the roots. We're going to aim for a super fast growth. We are here for the
Does that manifest itself, say, as cutting your portfolio of products, which has been commented, and we all know you have a huge okay.
That's a problem, definitely. But we also had many projects that were not launched, and they didn't bring money, right? So this is also one thing that we did. We stopped the expenses on the project that doesn't bring money.
I mean, two projects that come to mind. You had Loop Connect, which we know was something you were attempting to do, an RGB fan controller.
Yeah, and that's a small thing. That's a small thing.
And then a project that I saw at a couple of shows that just mystified me was a water-cooled PlayStation 5, which nice enough, but has to take time, money, and resources. And to me, it was indicative of the focus being lost.
Not at all. Not at all. It's we're solving problems for the customers. And PlayStation has one of the challenges with being loud, right? So it was just one tiny project. That project is peanuts of what we have been investing during previous times.
Okay. And in terms of changes that you're going to make, other than keeping an eye on your product portfolio in the next, Computex is imminent, and then at the end of the year, are you going to make any further public statements about company changes or allegations made, things that you found? Because there's a report to your email address that you say has been unused. So there's kind of two stories. People appear to be complaining to Gamers Nexus, but not to you.
Land here.
If people don't
Jumping
complain to
in.
you can't fix
Hang
it.
on.
Let's do this. Everybody contact me, contact us, and we will solve it if there is anything open. If somebody thinks that they have something open, contact us. And we will do this as we're doing with everything else that is maybe better.
I think that concludes our interview with Eddie Koenig of EKWB here in Slovenia. It's fair to say that there is scope for a further video. No doubt there'll be a response to this video by people who have raised allegations with Gamers Nexus and in other forums. Hopefully they will also get in touch with Eddie himself. He's asked this many times on this very video. So I can only say, watch this space.
Oh my god, they're here too. Are you serious, bro? Who the hell landed your copper TFS surfing out of my freaking red block?
I'm driving Palmer Lucky's personal warship, and we're all about to die.
So this is a Mark V Special Operations craft that I purchased from the Navy.
You're
gonna be fine. It's the fastest boat that the Navy ever built. It was designed specifically for Navy SEAL insertion and extraction missions. It runs really fast, and it's a lot of fun.
While this boat may be part of the old Navy, Lucky is trying to bring Silicon Valley speed and innovation back to the Pentagon.
Well, some of the United States technology is very bad. It's also extremely expensive and not necessarily adapted to the types of conflicts we're going to see in the future. The United States has a lot of investment in legacy weapons that are not necessarily having China quaking in their boots.
He's betting his new age defense company can take a slice of the Pentagon's $850 billion budget and reinvent how they do business from the outside in. That is, if they can beat the incumbents and convince the top brass that a billionaire founder sporting Hawaiian shirts is just as serious about rebooting America's arsenal as they are.
You're not the typical Silicon Valley founder wearing a black turtleneck, nor are you walking around and talking like a buttoned-up defense contractor CEO. Like, how does that play?
I am a little bit of a caricature, but it's because I just haven't changed. It was really easy when we started Andorol to say, conflict is over. We're living at the end of history. This idea of putting our best brains towards things that can kill people is a waste of talent and a waste of money and unethical. And that's not what anyone's saying anymore.
The war in Ukraine and China's rapid militarization have renewed fears that the U.S. defense industry isn't modernizing fast enough. That's brought a controversial handshake between tech and defense back out in the open.
Introducing your champion.
The military has a long and storied history with the tech industry. Post-World War II, billions in defense funding transformed California into aerospace and technology boomtowns. The first company to manufacture microchips that guided missiles, satellites, and helped Silicon Valley get its name was funded by the Pentagon. Founders of that very company pioneered modern-day venture capital and helped cultivate a vibrant tech industry. Today, there's a new generation trying to bring back America's past, proven by Palmer Lucky's collection of unusual vehicles.
You sure it still works?
It should, it should.
Land there. What's the drop shoot? Nice job. But you're still far.
Enough lying around. We're dropping.
This is a 1967 Disneyland Autopia, designed by Bob Gurr and Walt Disney. As far as I know, mine is the only complete Autopia that is outside of the parks. Mine has the original mechanicals, original gearboxes, original wheels, the whole deal. When I got it though, uh-oh.
Extra supplies here. Let's fill your pockets,
Technical
companions.
difficulties.
Got a flathead screwdriver? Oh, there we go. Look at that.
45 seconds. Rings close.
We gotta get moving. All right, there we go. Back on the
Back in business. So are you sure this is street legal?
We're on the street, aren't we?
You grew up in Long Beach, right? Not too far from here.
That's right. Close to
to the port, and it was a place with a lot of car culture, a lot of aerospace culture, a lot of defense activity. I grew up watching the Marine Corps practice right offshore in their helicopters, watching Navy ships do exercises, and you know, it gets in your brain and it doesn't leave. Southern California, unlike a lot of places, is a place where almost everybody knows someone who has served in the military or has a family member who served in the military. When that's the case, because of the density of military population here, you don't really have the crazy political ideology that you get in places like the Bay Area. But when I started Anduril, of course, it was a totally different world. Defense was not cool, and it was definitely not the hottest thing.
Before launching Anduril, Lucky worked on virtual reality headsets in his parents' garage. By age 18, he had a prototype that kickstarted the modern VR movement and caught the world's attention, including Mark Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg bought Oculus for $2 billion. Lucky was later ousted.
The thing is, I'm actually not nearly as political of a person as people think. I mean,
people think you got kicked out of Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I got kicked out of Silicon Valley because I made a $9,000 political donation. The reason that people pay attention to it at the end of the day is because it's novel for a person in tech to have supported the person who became president that year.
To be clear, he means this side. Meta disputes that Lucky was fired for his political views. But whatever the reason, the result was a rift between Lucky and the Valley. So he turned his attention to defense and set up shop in Southern California.
This is my extraordinarily tall door. The house was built in the 1980s, and I've kept all the bones the same. I think it's a pretty cool place, has some good Miami Vice vibes. I've got my 2-inch teal shag carpet. This is my fish tank. It's about a 6,500-gallon aquarium.
This looks like a Dungeons and Dragons table.
Oh, no, this is just my coffee table, although it does have a map of our Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
What kind of character are you in Dungeons and Dragons?
I'm a chaotic, neutral wizard named Nilrim 5. He's from the lost nation of Atlantis.
How much success have you had with that?
Pretty limited so far.
I know you're a big gamer. What are the connections between navigating a virtual battlefield and a real battlefield?
Probably the main similarities are some of the technology that we're applying to things like heads-up displays and augmented reality for soldiers and airmen to allow them to see where the danger on the battlefield is. It's also worth noting that really virtual reality came out of military research in the first place. And the games industry and the military-industrial complex have always shared kind of back and forth.
Come and get your birthday present.
How'd you get interested in defense technology?
I briefly was able to work as a lab technician on an Army project called Brave Mind. It was treating veterans with PTSD using virtual reality exposure therapy. And that was actually before I started Oculus. I kept in touch with a lot of friends in the defense industry, and what I heard over and over again is that it was broken, the incentives were wrong, they were being punished for doing the right thing, rewarded for doing the wrong thing. They made more money when they were over budget, and that really got me worried, especially in a world where we were running a new experiment as a country, an experiment where, for the first time in American history, tech companies were not working with DoD.
The relationship between Silicon Valley and Washington splintered after the Cold War. Top talent caught the dot-com wave, ditching government jobs in windowless rooms for positions at shiny tech firms.
Everybody used to work on Capitol Hill or the government or the military. Now everybody works for an internet startup.
The defense industry consolidated power around 5 big primes to supply the military's hardware and software. It's a large, complex oligopoly with a strict chain of command that filters ideas through layers upon layers upon layers of bureaucracy. For tech startups looking to get a piece of the action, welcome to the Valley of Death. The government tries to nurture new ideas, but the amount of time it takes to go from prototype to adoption puts most startups in the defense market graveyard. It seemed impossible for outsiders to compete until SpaceX and Palantir sued the government, claiming the bidding system unfairly favored the incumbents. Palantir co-founder Peter Thiel's venture firm was the first to invest in Anduril.
It's no coincidence that the only two companies to break through in the last 35 years, since the winding down of the Cold War, really, were both founded by billionaires. It's unfortunate, but it reflects the reality that we've created, where this muscle we used to have as a country of turning small, innovative defense companies into large-scale providers of weapons, we lost it. And the only way to bypass that was to already have made billions of dollars somewhere else. As a country, we need to do better.
So this is the old LA Times printing plant.
It was the old LA Times printing press. I started Oculus in Orange County, and it was a place where I could hire people from all over the country. When I moved up to the Bay Area, it actually became a lot harder to hire people who weren't already in the Bay Area, but this is a place where you can build great companies that draw from all of America, not just from that one tight little isolated bubble.
Well, I was actually wondering, is it hard to poach people from sort of big tech companies?
Oh, no. The way that you poach people from big tech companies is to tell them that their career is meaningless and that they're wasting their lives on something that doesn't matter. A decent chunk of people, when you can kind of shock them out of the matrix, being, what are you doing with your life? There's big problems in the world and you're not part of solving them. That's been behind a lot of the people who leave big tech companies, come to work at Anduril.
Not far from the ring, half a minute.
Anduril has been clear from the get-go. To come here is to build weapons and surveillance systems. They started with this tall autonomous security tower that sits on borders in the US and abroad, launched in the early days of the Trump presidency. They've expanded their arsenal to autonomous submarines, counter-drones, and other robots that are cheap to build with menacing names.
This is a half-scale model of Fury, which is an autonomous fighter jet that we're building. This is WISP. This is scanning infrared imager that's able to detect aircraft by building a 360-degree sphere that it integrates as it scans. And this is an electronic warfare system. It can jam and hack and make sure that you're able to talk and the other guy isn't in a whole bunch of really powerful ways.
Big dings in that.
You're trying to run a defense tech company like a startup. How does that compare to like Lockheed Martin and Boeing? And how do you get Washington to accept that?
Most new R&D is done on a cost-plus basis, meaning the contractor gets paid for their time, their materials, and then a fixed percentage of profit on top. Of course, that incentivizes you to come up with expensive solutions. If you drag it out as long as you can. Anduril, we're the opposite. Because we're a defense products company that makes things that work and sells them rather than getting paid.
I had no idea where I'm getting shot from.
It means that when we do something faster, it helps our profit margins.
You're building products that the government doesn't even know it needs yet, right?
Very often. It's pretty rare that we work on something that is consensus in the government, where there's widespread belief that what we're doing is the right solution to the problem. Often we're building things that they've written off as not feasible or not viable. There was a lot of skepticism about applying artificial intelligence to defense. A lot of skepticism about artificial intelligence in general. ChatGPT was one of the most helpful technologies to us because it helped convince people that AI can do things they didn't believe computers could do.
Are we getting to a point where battles could be fought by AI and counter AI?
We're not going to have systems that are acting entirely on their own without human direction. But will we see dogfights between AI fighter jets that don't have people in them? Yes, absolutely. In fact, in Ukraine, there's been a variety of engagements where you had unmanned systems destroying other unmanned systems.
It seems like what's happening in Ukraine has marked a shift in warfare strategy.
What's happening in Ukraine is fascinating because they can't afford to treat warfare as the thing to be think tanked or as a thing to be debated in white papers. They have to actually win today. And that means that a lot of barriers to trying new ideas have been lifted. And that's one of the reasons you've seen, for example, the proliferation of small unmanned armed quadcopters. It's why you've seen the proliferation of a lot of really interesting counter-drone systems, things that were not nearly mature enough to be deployed, let's say, by the United States. But they are willing to deploy them in a very early stage of maturity because they know they can't win doing things the old way.
The old way meant having the biggest, most expensive weapons Pentagon recently announced the Replicator program to fast-track thousands of low-cost autonomous drones. Startups and venture capitalists who historically shunned military work declared it's time to build to get in on the action.
The old school way of working through 5-6 months behind technology just doesn't work.
Big tech firms have had more long-term success, offering hardware, AI, and cloud services in exchange for billion-dollar deals. But there's been friction on the tech company side, from engineers who don't want anything to do with the military.
Some tech employees have moved back on the U.S. government and the U.S. military.
Yes.
Do you see where they're coming from?
Fundamentally, I think it's an emotional thing. They came to a company to work on consumer tech. They weren't told that their work would be used for potentially violence, and they don't like that. And I empathize with that because to them, it feels like a little bit of a bait and switch.
Critics see the technology you're building, worry it could be misused on American citizens, for example.
Sure.
Are they right to worry?
Oh, of course, anything can be misused. But look, like, if you want to point to things that can be misused against American citizens, I mean, the military has a lot of guns. The military has a lot of aircraft. You have to have trust in the system. You have to believe that democracy works, and you have to believe that the right way to control these is on the policy side. There are actually things I would like to build that the DoD would not use and would not deploy, that they do think are beyond the pale. And that's the way that it should be. U.S. foreign policy and military policy shouldn't be in the hands of corporate executives.
I'm not made that way.
The heart of Anduril's technology isn't its hardware, but its software. Engineers here have developed a proprietary AI-driven system called Lattice that acts like an intelligent control center for the company's hardware.
Lattice is our AI system for controlling distributed robots. We're doing processing and computer vision, machine learning on that data, and producing an operating picture of the world. So we understand the chessboard, so to speak, and then the autonomy can apply those very logical decisions about what to do and move forward and act.
So walk me through the process from identification to decision, or decision.
So we've got a manned crew that's going to try and fly in and land somewhere. They have some mission that they're going to do on the ground, but threats that are unknown. So we're going to send the autonomous systems forward. They're going to try and draw out enemy fire. And with these autonomous systems, you're okay if they die. You're okay if they get taken out, because that tells you more information about the battlefield so that you can make informed decisions.
Interesting. But there's still a long way to go, right?
Still a lot to build. Yep. There's the old saying, hardware is hard. The United States used to be able to build things that would fly twice as fast as our adversaries, and we'd be twice as fast for a decade. Those days are gone. Hardware advantages like that are going to be quickly copied by our adversaries. So a lot of the most durable advantages we build, for example, using software to make decisions twice as fast or 10 times as fast, is a capability that I don't think our adversaries are close to copying.
We're in the next ring.
Lattice is just one example of the military's increasing use of AI. The Pentagon has been developing Project Maven, an AI system that analyzes images from military drones and helps suggest
The battle happens
targets.
quick. Be ready.
Google initially won this contract in 2018, but backed out after thousands of workers protested the deal. Palantir, Amazon, Microsoft, and Anduril are currently among the main contributors. Maven is now deployed, but there are still open questions about AI's combat readiness.
At the end of the day, you just have to be correct. And you're doing it from afar. And so, yes, I would still submit that that is one of the toughest things that my organizations have encountered, is that idea of distinguishing enemy from non-enemy or combatant from non-combatant. And the scale of it is impressive.
There are concerns that AI could deepen the fog of war. What do you think about that?
No, I super disagree. I think AI is going to be a tool to put all the cards on the table for everyone. My hope is that you're going to have dictators who make better decisions because even they have better information from AI. Let's use Putin as an example. I don't think he would have launched this invasion if he would have understood what was actually going to happen. Remember, they believed just like a 3-day special operation, roll in, it was going to be over very, very quickly. If he had had a better understanding of what he had and what they had, I think he probably would not have made the play.
There are a lot of thorny ethical questions. We're talking about a possible future of self-guided bombs and killer robots. Who is is liable when a human isn't in the loop?
The key is that a person is responsible for the deployment of those systems. The existence of an algorithm cannot replace human responsibility for deploying that weapon system. And it has to be a person who deeply understands the limitations of that system and who's going to be held to account when it goes wrong. But war is hell, and it's not going to be perfect. There will be people who are killed by AI who should not have been killed. That is a certainty if artificial intelligence becomes a core part of the way that we fight wars. We need to make sure that people remain accountable for that, because that's the only thing that'll drive us to better solutions and fewer inadvertent deaths, fewer civilian casualties. I don't want AI to do these things, but a lot of times the existing technologies are much worse.
China and Taiwan. How does this play out?
It can play out in a lot of different ways. Everything that Anduril is working on the R&D side is oriented towards that fight. Right now, China believes that they can take Taiwan. They believe that the United States is some combination of won't stop them, isn't willing to stop them, won't win if we do try to stop them. They believe Taiwan is in a similar position with their own military. We have to change their minds. I'm probably going to eat these words, but if China ends up invading Taiwan, I'm going to feel like we've really failed in our mission.
You actually spent a lot of time in China working on Oculus headsets. What do you know about China's capabilities in AI? What don't you know?
I spent time in China back in the Oculus days because that's where we did our manufacturing, and we didn't really have a choice. I deeply understand how dependent our country has become on Chinese manufacturing, Chinese engineering, Chinese supply chain materials. It's really extraordinary how they've pulled themselves up from almost nothing to being an economic superpower. And we did this too. We're the ones that gave them the blueprints. We're the ones that gave them the tech. We're the ones that shipped it all overseas, and I'm part of the problem. I'm one of the guys who did it. What a hole.
Do you worry that China is outpacing the U.S. on technological innovation? Like, could the U.S. military lose its edge to China?
Well, depending on who you ask, China
Already
has
have.
between 50 times and 300 times the military shipbuilding capacity of the United States. This is a huge problem, especially if you're fighting a war where you lose all your ships and it takes you decades to rebuild. They lose all their ships and they rebuild the same year. This is really inarguably an area where China has outpaced the United States. Now, they haven't outpaced us everywhere, but in a lot of the areas that matter for a fight in the Pacific, they are kicking our ass. And the United States is not going to be able to win by following the same strategy they do. We're not going to be able to build enough shipyards and train enough welders to build 300 times more ships. That's off the table. So we have to win with our brains.
Despite all its innovation, Anduril and other defense tech startups are still bit players in the world of military suppliers. Venture capitalists plowed in $100 billion between 2021 and 2023. Only a handful of companies have won meaningful contracts.
Right now, Anduril is very much in a high-growth stage. We've done a lot of things that I'm very, very proud of. But I'm very aware of the fact that we are not a profitable business. We are living on borrowed time. And so it's hard for me to come and feel like I've made it when I know that anyone can raise money from VCs, buy a really big office, and fill it full of people. The question is, are those people building the right things, and will those things pay off?
It's not your average Newport Beach boat.
No, it's not.
Is it?
Most of my neighbors like it, and a handful hate it, but that's good enough. We've got a mock M2 heavy barrel 50 BMG machine gun. I have real ones that I can throw on, but I keep the fake ones on most of the time. One of the other cool features of the boat is these shock-mounted seats. You'll notice they bounce up and down. So we're gonna go below deck into the navigator's room. This is also where we run all of our communications gear, processing gear, computer gear, radio gear. You've got all of your rifle racks here so that you can rack them up. So these are twin MTU engines. The boat's got a little over 5,000 horsepower. This whole thing's basically a big giant jet ski.
Where they at?
Got a UH-60 Blackhawk.
Okay, good communication.
I used to have 7, but I only have 6 now.
I didn't see you mark one thing on the map.
Where you have every video game ever created?
A while ago, I purchased the world's largest video game collection, and I also collect U.S. Air Force nuclear missile bases. So I put that in one of my missile bases 200 feet underground.
Where's that?
Oh, I can't tell you. All right. We're gonna do some turns. Everybody hold on. Okay, what was that? That was one of our own wings, but we're gonna go find one of the other ones. Hold on.
What the fuck? I thought you killed everyone.
So as we accelerate, you're going to hear first the first turbocharger kicked in, and then after we get at about 20 knots, you're going to hear the second turbocharger kick in, and that's when the engine changes pitch. I'm going to try a starboard turn. You're going to move your thing over to the right, and then watch your positions here.
I'm turning a warship.
When I say center, center, center now. There you go.
We're going fast. Like, the beach is approaching.
All right, we're gonna do a little bit of a fast stop. You're gonna pull on the throttle. Just pull, keep going, give it. There we go. All right, leave it there. There you go.
So am I hired?
No.
You started Endural in 2017, and you've lived through Silicon Valley in the era of ZERP and easy money.
Sure.
What do you think about the frenzy?
Zero interest rate phenomenon. Yeah, there's a lot of companies that shouldn't have existed. They never should have been funded. All that money went to paying people to do things that were a waste of time. I know lots of young founders who were working on crypto art nonsense and a 5th delivery app or a 10th delivery app, and now that money has become harder to come by, you know what they're working on? They're working on energy. They're working on national security. They're working on transportation, and I think I see people working on real problems because the market forced them to, and that's a good thing in my opinion.
So it's time to build?
It's time to build.
The war in Ukraine, it's been 2 years now. How are we going to look back on it?
Well, I think that we're going to look back on it as one of the best examples of the hubris of the modern era. Thinking that we lived at the end of history, the end of conflict, that large-scale war was a thing of the past, that artillery is irrelevant, that manpower is irrelevant, that sternly worded letters from the United Nations mean anything at all to expansionist dictators like Putin or Xi. That's, I think, going to be the legacy of this fight.
Is the U.S. government working fast enough to foster the agility we need to survive or win global conflicts?
It depends on what kinds of fights we fight. Hopefully we have enough time. We might not.
Why not?
Well, let's say that China starts making moves on Taiwan and moves on other countries in the next 24 months. I think we're going to be in trouble. I think in 36 months, 48 months, we're actually still kind of in trouble. If it takes long enough, I think that the United States military has recognized the problem. But like you're steering this boat, when you turned, how long did it take for the boat to respond? A while.
It was a bit of a lag time.
The U.S. military is the same way. It's a large machine. It takes a long time to move, even once you've applied the control, even once you've applied the input. I think that's the phase we're in. The government has realized the problem. They've applied the input. We're waiting for the system to adjust.
Bruce Lee is arguably... It shows Bruce facing off... Wouldn't be surprised to find out that he did this at the same event in 1967. With everything we know now about the man, I mean, who would put it past him? Taking it to the table. Now, if you thought that Bruce Lee was only good at using his fists, you would be very wrong. Sure, the man mostly fought with nothing but his bare knuckles and his feet, but that didn't necessarily mean that he didn't equally master how to use specialized weapons when fighting. And when it came to weapons, he was especially fond of using his famous nunchucks, a traditional East Asian martial arts tool consisting of two sticks being connected to each other at their ends by a short metal chain or a rope. And because of its shape, the nunchucks can be incredibly difficult to master for most people. But if Bruce Lee is anything, he's definitely not a normal person. Take a look at this clip, for instance, shot as part of a backstage video montage for a movie production. It shows Bruce facing off against opponents using the nunchucks. And you would probably think it was a fight scene, but no, Bruce is literally using them to play table tennis.
We've got 45 seconds. If you don't got robotic legs, you need to move.
Do you even have any idea of how insane this is? I mean, first off, table tennis is a game requiring speed, strength, and an incredible amount of hand-eye coordination. For most professionals, merely keeping up with a wide bat is already as difficult as you can imagine, but it's no problem for Bruce. Despite the fact that the nunchucks are dangerous, he wields them with so much skill, easily using them in place of the traditional table tennis bat. Bruce is so good, in fact, that he faced off against two players on the same time with nothing but his nunchucks, and he still managed to win.
Attention, delivering care package.
Honestly, if I hadn't seen it myself, I probably would not have believed the video was real. The fact that Bruce was able to do this while still maintaining his balance and not hitting himself with his own weapon was impressive enough. But to literally defeat two players at the same time just takes things beyond the realm of
He's broken. Oh, you guys are. Never mind.
insane workout routine. It's absolutely impossible for anyone to attain the level of mastery of the martial arts that Bruce Lee achieved without going through extensive and rigorous training. Bruce himself knew this and never cheated himself out of that. In fact, by the time he had become an established martial arts grandmaster, he was said to have engaged in such rigorous training sessions, most people would wonder if the guy was even human. Now, to really understand Bruce's training, it's worth exploring his fighting style. In the early parts of his career, he was trained by Ip Man in Hong Kong, and for years he had built up his mastery of the legendary Wing Chun fighting art, taking lessons from Ip Man while incorporating them into his own form of the art that he developed later in the early 60s. Still though, Bruce Lee would not be satisfied, and following a highly publicized fight with Wong Jack Man, he decided that he was not happy with the outcome of the conflict. Primarily, Bruce hated the fact that his fight with Wong Jack Man lasted so long, even though according to most sources he eventually won. He decided that the traditional fighting style had become too rigid, and so would not work in practical fighting scenarios. As a remedy, he created Jeet Kune Do in 1967. The style of no style, as Bruce would deem it, was requiring Bruce to literally switch his training methods. He began lifting weights for strength, running more to improve endurance, and stretching properly to optimize flexibility as much as possible. And as you can imagine, he succeeded with that as well. Bruce Lee's strength training was especially intense. He practiced his kicks and punches so much, relying on punching bags and kicking pads that weighed hundreds of pounds. And even at that, he still managed to almost break them. Just check out this clip of him trying to use a kicking pad.
Oh boy, I could tell that one was going to be a hard one. A lot of shots. It was missed on. I know you're coming in good one. Too short. Huh?
You can see the strength that Bruce packed into that kick, which was so much that it literally forced the guy holding it to move back several paces. The same went into Bruce's punching training, and according to some reports, he used special punching bags that were heavier and more dense than most of the ones that were available. This weight meant very little to Bruce, who would almost literally yank them off their hinges with the strength of his hits. With such dedication and an immense focus on building strength, it's really no wonder that Bruce ended up with a punch that was not only fast, but also lethal as well. And that's a deadly combination if I've ever seen one. All of these had helped to reinforce Bruce's Jeet Kune Do arsenal. With his new fighting style, he was finally ready to conquer the martial arts world. The 1-inch punch. If there's one thing that Bruce Lee has become especially famous for, it's the 1-inch punch. Basically a style of punching that's so rare yet so effective, and even though many people have tried to replicate it, the truth is, it's nearly impossible. The 1-inch punch is exactly what it sounds like. Bruce Lee would stand at a very close distance to his opponent and deliver a powerful punch to their midsection. What made the punch so popular is actually the fact that it almost defies the laws of physics. Because you have to remember, if you're going to punch someone, you'll want to stand a considerable distance and let the momentum from the punch give you enough weight to knock them down. With the 1-inch punch, Bruce takes a different approach, delivering a blow that's still as devastating despite the fact that it's literally an inch from the opponent. To be fair, Bruce didn't invent the 1-inch punch, but the technique is only prominent today because of how much he had popularized it. And to see him perform it is honestly to watch a master at his art. Interestingly, this clip was captured at the same karate exhibition where Bruce had sparred with Vic Moore, and you can see how intense the punch technique actually is. Despite the fact that he didn't have the luxury of space or momentum to really give it the right amount of power, he had still managed to knock the guy off his feet and get him to move back a few paces. It really just goes to show you the type of raw strength the man was working with. And you may be wondering, what happens if Bruce actually gets enough momentum under his punch? Well, that's why he also demonstrated his 6-inch punch. While the technique might not have been as prominent as the 1-inch, it's still quite impressive. And to really appreciate it, you have to see this clip from the same event. For a proper demonstration, Bruce invites a karate practitioner to have a crack at one of the audience members who was wearing protective gear. As you can see, the karate guy gave it all that he had, and he only managed to make the audience member fall back a few steps. Bruce then comes in, taking his patented 6-inch punch, and tries it out on the same guy, and you can see a clear difference between his effort and that of the karate guy. I mean, come on, even a visually impaired person would tell you that this was quite a stretch. Bruce didn't only knock the guy back a few steps, but he made him sit in his chair, while the pad that he used to protect his chest had literally flew off. What sort of superhuman strength did he have, really? There are only a few things that really depict Bruce's true strength: his 1-inch punch, and to a lesser degree, the 6-inch punch as well. Definitely will rank in that category. To date, most people who have tried to replicate it have only scratched the surface, and truly, no one could ever do it like Bruce. The 2-finger push-up. Another interesting feat that adds to the lore of Bruce Lee is his popular 2-finger push-up. The push-up is generally considered one of the most difficult exercises to perform, and it's especially challenging because it literally takes something out of your entire upper body.
Push-up is considered one of the hardest exercises? What?
And for many of us, the act of completing a push-up can be a challenge. You have to raise your body,
What?
then push it down again in several motions. Without the right amount of
What
strength,
is this
it may
guy
be impossible.
saying?
For Bruce Lee, however, it was no more than a walk in the park. You have to remember that Bruce focused a lot on improving his strength as part of his training, and because of that, he was able to optimize his own core strength as well as that of his hands. One thing that Bruce Lee was known for was his willingness to go above and beyond what other people
I'm
were
looking for
prepared
heavy
to do.
ammo.
And while most of us
I'll
train
take
with
that.
push-ups using both our hands, Bruce would literally switch it up using just 2 of his fingers. It's insane to think about. Most people today try to act like they've mastered the art of the push-up and tend to do things like lifting their bodies and clapping, or perhaps doing push-ups on one hand. But for Bruce Lee, all of it was no more than child's play. He had upped the ante, working with only 2 fingers on his right hand and displaying an ungodly amount of strength to use
Where was that
those muscles to
knockdown
lift his
shield?
body off the ground one at a time. To be fair, there have been a lot of people who have also mastered the push-up technique, but there's no argument about the fact that Bruce was really the one who had made it as popular as it is today. Always ready. A major hallmark of someone who has mastered martial arts is a willingness to show off what they know at a moment's notice. For many of us who aren't expert fighters, the general perception of people who practice martial arts is that they always have to have their gear on and can only feel comfortable fighting when they're dressed appropriately. You know, such as the robe and the belt and whatnot. For Bruce Lee, though, there was actually no such thing as an appropriate outfit. He was always ready to scrap regardless of the situation. For instance, take this clip where he gave an interview on a midday TV show and literally had to show off some of his moves while wearing a suit.
There are various kinds of strikes. It depends on where you hit and what weapon you will be using. There is a finger jab, there is the punch, there is the back fist, and then low. Of course, then they use legs, straight at the groin, or come up. Or, if I can back up a little bit, they start back up here, and then come back. All right. It's kind of worrying.
He had no issues with stretching and showing off what he had, despite the fact that he wasn't wearing the proper attire, and that's just how special the Bruce was. The Dragon Flag. For the final clip, we'll be looking at a workout regimen that Bruce pioneered, which remains one of the most difficult in the world. The Dragon Flag is a form of exercise that literally tests every part of your upper body, from the core of your stomach to your upper limbs and so much more. To perform it, you would
I'm
need
getting
to lay
shot
down on a
at.
bench and then hold a pole or some other straight structure that has been erected at the end of the head. With your hands holding the pole, it's now up to you to raise your entire body, kind of like doing a push-up, but with your body being inverted. Still, though, it doesn't end there. When you perform a Dragon
I'm
Flag,
moving, I'm
you're
moving, I'm
also
moving.
meant to
You're
hold
good.
your position with your body being elevated. And I'd just let Bruce show you how it's done. The Dragon Flag has to be one of the most advanced core exercises available, and as you can imagine, it's also one of the most difficult forms of workouts to engage in. It actually is named after Bruce, with the dragon part being a reference to his popular nickname, and the flag part alluding to the fact they would have to hold his body straight like a flag rested on a flagpole. Due to the level of difficulty involved, the Dragon Flag is only practiced by advanced athletes with high levels of endurance and the right mentality. It places a significant amount of work on the body's joints, but is especially beneficial for your core because it
There's
allows
not
you to
actually
build a
someone there
considerable
though.
amount of
There
core
was
strength.
someone where I was pointing.
In many ways,
but you
it
guys
was
are
the
blind.
perfect training regimen for Bruce. Core training has always been a major part of his requirements as a master of Jeet Kune Do, and exercises like these would have helped to improve his flexibility. At the same time, the fact that the Dragon Flag is one of those exercises that most other people would immediately run away from means that Bruce Lee must have been especially excited about it. And like the many other difficult exercises, he completed it as though it were nothing. Bruce Lee's mastery of martial arts was definitely something to behold. The man was so good that it was almost criminal for him to do some of the things that he did. And to be honest, if many of us were told some of the craziest stunts and moves that he pulled, it would be hard to believe. But fortunately, we have the footage that attests to just how special a talent Bruce was. But what do you think, though? Would you have stood a chance against Bruce Lee? Can you pull off some of the moves that he was able to do? Be sure to let me know all about it in the comments down below. You should also subscribe to the channel so that you never miss another video like this one.
Miz, thanks for the raid. What the heck? Yo,
There's some. I have symptoms for something I know. Okay, I need a chat doctor right now. I get random one-off hiccups. Okay, I get food poisoning like at least twice a month. And then also, I can't sleep.
Oh my God, you're turning into Brit.
My hands get numb sometimes a little bit. I'm always cold. And also, what else is
Or is this getting older? Is this it?
We years ago, I stay up all night, drink Red Bull, caffeine and sugar.
do that tonight.
Honestly, the idea of getting older to me is mockery, because the truth is, like, yeah, we're 30 now,
Yeah.
but we don't have to tell people.
The thing is, like, they're gonna find out.
Well,
brick wall, menopause, boom, and then like shrink and get wide.
see,
I
sunshine.
have
You
to
don't
go
have.
back now.
You don't. You're.
Go outside. That's
We
See?
I promise you, if I moved there, neither of you hang out.
Shut up. That's a lie because we see you every single time, and I don't. What are you doing? Because
You're like, shut up. Like, what?
Well, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. Shut up. Oh, sorry, I didn't.
It begins with screaming and blood. A house by the sea, somewhere in Norway. Inside, the screaming of one becomes the screaming of two. The baby is a boy. They wrap him in soft wool. His parents are no one special. No skald will sing of his deeds, and history will not remember his name. His family are not lords or warriors, yet he and people like him will spread Scandinavian influence from Constantinople to Western lands unseen by Europeans. For this village prizes one skill above all others. The father takes his newborn son and lays him in a crib shaped like a boat. Between the 8th and the 10th centuries, a startling event occurred in Northern Europe. Throughout the whole of Scandinavia, men and women took to the seas with the intention to raid, settle, and trade with new lands. Within 3 centuries, they would trade goods in Constantinople, build the city of Dublin, establish a dynasty in France, found a kingdom in England, and give Russia its name. And famously, this Viking expansion would culminate in a series of voyages that left settlements on Iceland, Greenland, and briefly North America. Medieval Scandinavians achieved this through superior technology, flexible tactics, and business savvy. But surprisingly, also without central leadership or even a common vision. Instead, it was a distributed effort where groups of adventurers struck out into Europe's waterways in search of profit, power, and fame. And in this series, we'll chart the most successful of those efforts and how they changed the face of Europe. But before we get to that, let's take a look at Scandinavian society. Specifically, what motivated medieval Scandinavians to take to the waves? And once they did, why were they so successful? That question of motivation is actually tough to answer. One school of thought holds that overpopulation or climate change led to resource scarcity and food shortages, causing Scandinavians to seek out new lands, or at least wealth to buy land back home. Others say the consolidation of political power in Scandinavian society, basically the rise of powerful kings, created a class of displaced warriors looking to recapture wealth and status. Still others point out that in the 8th century, Europe had finally begun to recover from the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. Complex trade and monetary systems were on the rise, meaning that after centuries of existing via the barter system, people in Europe finally had goods that were, well, actually worth stealing. Moreover, these new luxury goods were portable. After all, Vikings weren't going to cross the North Sea and sack an English port just to steal all of its cows. Silver and precious stones, though, those were easy things to loot. But in all likelihood, there was no single event that drove the Viking expansion. The evidence points to a combination of factors that convinced Scandinavians to strike out with the sail and the sword. As to why they were so successful, for that, let's go back to the same house we visited earlier. The child who lay in the boat-shaped crib is now 13 and getting ready to accompany his father to sea. His is a nautical family. The house he grew up in, indeed every house in the village, is shaped like an upturned ship. They live on the coast of Norway, with the North Sea on one side and a great ridge of mountains known as the Keel on the other. As a boy, he learned to sail small craft in the sheltered fjords, fishing and ferrying passengers. But this will be his first time sailing to foreign lands. He is well prepared. Years of helping his mother handle farming and livestock have made him strong, and village leisure activities
No!
physical fitness. He spends his summers in wrestling contests, mock sword fights, boxing, and foot races. Unusually for a medieval European, he can swim for several miles. In the depths of winter, he spends his time playing music, listening to and reciting poetry.
I died in the storm.
And drinking vast
Or died by becoming out of bounds, and then I flew over the top of the ridge. And I was hitting zero.
Nothing. Cultural comforts that can be carried across the world while taking up no cargo space. And under his boat-roofed hall, heavy with snow, he learned how to exist in a small space with other men for months at a time without descending into violence. When the village needs to build or repair a boat, he assists the craftsmen, selecting green wood and learning how to cut with the grain to give the timber strength. Boatyard elders work him until he memorized each angle and spar of the clinker-style construction, forming mental blueprints of the craft. Now, if he and his crew are wrecked on a foreign shore, they can build a new boat from memory. But now his training is over. He and his father set off in their vessel, armed not with swords, but with furs, honey, and walrus ivory. They are not Vikings. In fact, very few Scandinavians were. A Viking or Vikinger was a raider, not necessarily a full-time one either. It was more an activity like piracy you could engage in on the side. But the boy and his father are not Vikingers, and their ship is not one of the famous longships. They sail a canar, a trading vessel that is shorter and wider than its warlike cousin. It has decks and a hold that can carry 30 to 40 tons, but a draft of only 5 feet, meaning it can navigate even shallow. Its keel keeps it steady during the crossing to the British Isles, and as it navigates its first storm, the boy no longer has to wonder why scalded poems refer to ships as serpents. The flexible hull twists in the rough water, bending where other ships will drift. The navigator shows the boy how to orient himself on the open sea, how to chart by the stars and look for telltale signs of land in cloud formations and passing birds. They count oar strokes to determine their speed. They average around 5 knots. Respectable, but under optimum conditions, the thinner, flat-bottomed longships can make 3 times that speed. They pull into the Longport at their destination, the Kingdom of Dublin, a trade city founded by Norwegian Vikingers. There, standing on deck, the boy sees foreign people for the first time. They're dark-haired and dark-eyed men and women, standing on the shore, chained together with iron manacles. Irish slaves. The boy learns to barter fur and ivory for human beings, and sets off on the next leg of the journey. These Irish will fetch a good price at the Emirate of Cordoba, Muslim Spain, where merchants offer silver coin from the Middle East in exchange for human cargo. Usually, traders only handle one leg of the trade, but the boy's father is savvy. Alongside silver in the Arab territories, they bargain for pottery and glass in what is now Germany, and silver jewelry with the Franks. In the Mediterranean, they buy spices and Persian leather. Their shallow draft ship can navigate most major rivers in Europe, and most major cities are built on rivers. And at times, they meet up with the great longships, the Vikingers. The first time, the boy fears the fierce captain with his iron helmet and sword. But he soon learns that fellow Scandinavians are also open to trade. Sometimes, his father swaps supplies with the Irish, and at other times,
He's broke! He's broke down here. He's broke. He's broke. You gotta finish him. He's right here. Oh my God, too late. If you didn't kill him now, he's already healed. He's healed. He's healed. He's right here. He's right here in the corner. His buddy just came in too. His buddy just came in too. The other one right on me is hurt, but he's in the corner. He's coming through the wall. Oh my God. There's no way you didn't finish them right there. Why would you not just...
Scandinavians the same. The Irish call them the dark and fair foreigners, and the Franks refer to them as Northmen. Though their crews hail from Norway, the English see no distinction and refer to all Scandinavians as Danes. But the Scandinavians themselves see a great deal of difference. The Norwegians and Danes often...
Altair says, why are you rushing as a damn support dude? That's a full team.
There's little similarity between mountain forelands and the flat riverlands. Stop playing this game. The Swedes largely control trade into the waterways of Eastern Europe and dislike others encroaching on their territory. At times, a great leader might unite a coalition of warbands from different places, but it was tempting fate for a Norwegian trader to pull up alongside an unfamiliar Danish longship. In time, the boy became a man. He learned his father's trade well and married. He too would lay his sons in a boat-shaped crib and take them to sea, teaching them to barter in the trading ports, and once even taking them on a risky venture to the lavish markets of Constantinople. The man was not rich. Though full of profit, a lifetime of trading on the sea also exposes a family to loss. Storms, bad investments, and raids by fellow Scandinavians blunted his fortune. Long voyages make for rocky marriages, and after 20 years, his wife declared divorce, claiming half his property. He accepted this and remarried. His former wife had, after all, followed the law. When he died, he could not be buried in the lavish style of the wealthy lords. Instead, his sons dug him a simple grave and filled it with his favorite possessions. And to mark the spot, to honor the man who had crossed the ocean and exchanged goods across the world, they laid him to rest inside a ring of stones. A ring shaped like a boat.
That voice in your head. Trust it. Eventually you gotta pull the trigger.
845. Ragnar Lothbrok has taken Paris. Vikingers harry the streets and sack the city's churches. Ragnar himself enters the cathedral, clears the altar, and sacrifices a man to Odin. The message is clear. He has nothing to fear from these Franks. The Frankish king has seen what the Viking army can do. Days earlier, they had outmaneuvered him, taunting his army by hanging 100 captured soldiers in full view. He makes them an offer. He will give Ragnar 6,000 pounds of gold and silver, a tributary bribe, to leave his lands. It is the first instance of what will become known as a Danegeld, and it sets off an explosion. The sack of Paris marks a major turning point in the Viking expansion, a time when simple coastal raids became full-scale invasions. But it didn't have to happen that way. Scandinavians began trading with the Franks in the early 8th century, but in the late 700s, a new force swept Europe: Charlemagne and his Holy Roman Empire. In a series of stunning campaigns, the Frankish king built a state that stretched from central Italy in the south to France and Germany in the north. The largest, most powerful state Western Europe has seen since the fall of Rome. But this aggressive expansionism also made Charlemagne a pretty bad name. So in 804, when Charlemagne defeated the Saxons of northwest Germany, the king of Denmark started giving him some side-eye across the new, uncomfortably close shared border. But still, the treaties held. At least until Charlemagne started to build a navy. To the Danes, this was a major violation. Clearly, this expansionist king was gunning for Danish territory. So, it was raiding time. The king launched a fleet of 200 ships onto Charlemagne's shores, the first major raid on Francia. Charlemagne reciprocated with his own expedition. For a while, it appeared a full-scale war was coming. Then, both rulers died. As the Frankish navy dissipated, tensions fell, but the Danish raids continued. See, Charlemagne's heir seemed fine at first, but after executing his nephew for rebellion, he suffered a lifelong attack of conscience, debasing himself in extreme acts of public penance. This made him look weak, and won him the nickname Louis the Pious. Yes, really. These acts undercut royal power, but it was his decision to divide his kingdom among his heirs, a move so disastrous that we've already done an episode on it, that truly broke the kingdom. Now, what we didn't tell you in that episode, though, is that as those sons fought for the throne, they increasingly hired Viking mercenaries to attack their brothers. This was a bad idea. Not only did it encourage more Vikings to come to Francia, but it made the raiders richer, more powerful, and familiar with the empire's geography. Simultaneously, the old Coast Guard system broke down as the successors fought. Soon, the Viking fleets raided the divided kingdom on a regular basis, gorging themselves on imperial loot. And then, Ragnar took Paris, and Charles the Bald, yes, really, gave him the first Danegeld. Giving Ragnar 6,000 pounds of silver sent a signal to every Viking in Scandinavia that pillaging monasteries was for suckers. They could make way more by sacking a city, bedding down, and then demanding a bribe to go away. And over the next 4 decades, they did just that. and the Franks just kept paying them. Coastal areas started to depopulate. Vikings sacked Paris 3 times in the 860s. In 880, they captured Charlemagne's capital of Aachen, quartering horses in his cathedral. King Charles the Fat, yes, really, rewarded them with silver. And in 885, Paris was under threat again. The remnants of the Great Heathen Army, defeated by Alfred in Wessex and seeking plunder elsewhere, converged on the city. Among them was a man named Rolf, a very big man. In fact, his men called him the Walker because he was so big he couldn't ride a horse. But history remembers him by his Latinized name, Rollo. Rollo the Walker.
The Walker.
We know very little about Rollo's early life. Later accounts claim he was an ally of the first Norwegian king, but he never used a title, meaning he likely came from nothing. However, he would go on to do great things. The Great Heathen Army, however, would not. Paris wasn't an easy target. They'd erected fortified bridges. The siege dragged. Vikings died. Warbands went back home. Then Charles the Fat showed up with his army and an offer. 700 pounds of silver to skip Paris and plunder Burgundy instead. Rollo took it. But even as he ravaged the wine country for 26 years, Paris was never far from his mind. In 911, he returned. Richer, stronger, more dangerous. But he hadn't counted on the Bishop of Chartres. Chartres was supposed to be an easy sack, a pit stop along the way. But when Rollo arrived, he found the city's soldiers arrayed for battle. So he gave them battle. Shield walls crunched, men shoved and stabbed. The Frankish line bent. Then the gate opened, and the bishop emerged. A cross in one hand, a reliquary in the other, and a mob of peasants at his back. The wild charge overwhelmed Rollo, and he withdrew to a hilltop. Night fell. Men shivered. Scouts said that the Frankish king was on his way with cavalry. They were surrounded. In the morning, they would die under Frankish hooves. But Rollo did not intend to wait until morning. He dispatched infiltrators into the Frankish camp. They got in among the sleeping enemy and, at a signal, blew their horns. Sleep-bewildered Franks stumbled out of their tents and formed units, half-armed, expecting a night attack. Instead, Rollo led his forces in the opposite direction. A breakout toward the river where they'd moored their boats. An evacuation. They almost made it. Rollo and his force reached the ships, but he could hear hoofbeats. There was no time to embark the army. Thinking fast, he ordered his men to slaughter every piece of livestock they carried with them and to make a barricade, a fortress of flesh and offal. The Frankish cavalry closed in. Lances glittered in the dawn. They lowered their long spears. The ground shook.
Oops,
Then
I killed
the
you
horses
on
turned,
purpose.
nostrils flaring, eyes wide, spooked by the smell of blood. The riders whipped them on, but they refused to advance. It was a brilliant solution, but only temporary. King Charles and his army had arrived. And this was not the foolish Charles the Fat, but his much more astute cousin, Charles the Simple. Yes, really. But despite his name, Charles was not simple. In fact, he knew an opportunity when he saw it. Payne Danegeld had nearly bankrupted the state. In the half-century since Ragnar captured Paris, Frankish kings had paid Vikings over 120,000 pounds of silver, a full third of all the coins they'd minted. And despite this enormous expense, the raids hadn't stopped. People had begun looking to their local lords rather than the king as their greatest defender. And that was ominous. Charles saw another way. His army had a problem fighting these quick, highly mobile Vikings. So why not use one Viking to fight another? Grant them a stake, give them land to defend. It had been tried before, of course, but the Vikings' previous kings selected were all young men, easily seduced away from their land by the smell of plunder. Rollo was in his 50s, rich beyond measure, his reputation made. A man like that started to think about his legacy. And what better legacy than land for his descendants? He sent his terms to Rome. If the warlord would convert to Christianity, keep peace with the crown, and provide military assistance when called upon, he could have land for his own. The specific land, of course, just happened to contain the rivers Vikingers used to attack Paris. Seeing a clear choice between death and glory, Rollo chose glory. He signed the treaty. There were some hiccups. Rollo refused to show submission by kissing the royal foot, and after a tense exchange, delegated the kiss to a subordinate. The man grabbed Charles's foot and yanked it to his lips so hard, he sent the king sprawling. Later, the mass baptism ceremony got derailed when priests discovered several Vikings running a scam, getting multiple baptisms to hoard free robes. Ka-ching. But despite those hiccups, Rollo proved a steady hand. He kept the peace. Sure, he harbored bands of Vikings, but no more great fleets sailed up the rivers. His land formed a bulwark against the raiders, a land of Northmen named after Northmen, a land called Normandy. Unlike previous Vikings, Rollo wanted to make this work. He shared his new land out among his captains and ordered fortifications.
Where the fuck is Scrappy
He
at? What the
instituted
fuck?
new law codes and married a Christian woman, one he captured.
I'm in the same place I've been for this whole fight. You guys got into that fight without me, and then you questioned where I'm at. You knew where I was.
Bro, we fucking moved Holland.
I wasn't able to get there that quick. I was halfway across the map when you guys chased down that fight.
We said we were fucking bouncing.
Yet paganism
Why are you
died
so
with
far
him.
away from us?
Within a generation, the descendants of Rollo and his captains were French-speaking
in that
Christians.
same spot.
A society that was culturally and religiously French, but retained the energy and adventurism of their Viking ancestors. These Normans would shape European history.
Should I even
They'd
go
take
this way?
southern Italy and Sicily, building Palermo into a dynamic cultural and economic hub. Normans would form several major crusader states. And of course, Rollo's descendant, William the Conqueror, would famously invade England in 1066. In fact, get this, Rollo's descendants still sit on the British throne. Odin saved the queen. But Normandy wasn't the only Viking kingdom. So join us next time as we head north to the most successful city they would establish, the Viking Kingdom of Dublin. Ireland, 837. The northern kingdom of Tara and the southern kingdom of Munster are at war. As these great high kings clash, petty kings rapidly declare allegiance
There's
to
no way
one,
for me to get
the
there.
other, or none.
Fuck.
Hearing tales of chaos, Thorgest the Sea King arrives with 120 longships. 2 years later, he sacks the monastery of Armagh, defiling the altar St. Patrick himself had installed and ordained. The pagans scatter the saint's holy relics in the streets, butcher scholars, and destroy the monastery's most precious treasure, their books. Perhaps most shocking, this pagan lord declares himself the new abbot and begins collecting the monastery's rents. But the heathen is not satiated. In 841, Thorgest seizes a harbor. He builds walls and a port, declaring himself king over all foreigners in Ireland. He names this new city after its black pools, Dublin. As the Danes plundered the remains of Charlemagne's Frankish Empire, the Norwegians set their sight on a different target, Britain and Ireland. They began with seasonal raids on the coasts of England and Scotland, returning to Scandinavia with their wealth each winter. But they soon realized that these British islands, warmed by passing currents, had a far more temperate climate than Norway. They began to establish winter outposts that turned into expeditionary bases in the spring. The first probing attacks hit Ireland in the early 830s. These were classic hit-and-run affairs, attacking vulnerable targets like coastal monasteries and disappearing before local troops could muster for combat. Ireland proved an attractive target. Through their trade networks, the Scandinavians knew the island was rich in precious metals and stones. Irish craftsmen famously produced intricate gold, silver, and copper jewelry, as well as reliquaries and devotional objects. Local stones, such as emeralds, sapphires, and pearls, decorated these breathtaking objects. Indeed, despite the fractious nature of Irish politics, the island was in the midst of an early medieval renaissance. Unlike the rest of Europe, abbots held spiritual power rather than bishops and archbishops, and monasteries served as political units, much more like a town or city. They would have merchants and soldiers, sex workers and farmers. One monastery might even go to war with another. And this uniquely powerful institution allowed the Irish Church to develop into a center of learning. Irish monasteries produced, and often reproduced, vast libraries of spiritual works, as well as surviving Greek and Latin classics. The Irish students, monks, and copyists so revered these books that they fashioned covers out of gold, silver, and jewels, meaning they were the first things Vikings stole. Initially, the raiders tore these volumes apart for their valuables and threw the pages into the sea. But they soon learned that the Irish coveted these strange blocks of parchment. Abbots were willing to pay fat ransoms for both these books and the monks that produced them. So soon, the raids turned from simple pillage operations to pillage and capture missions. They ransomed high-value prisoners and sold the peasants into slavery. But Thorgest was different. His raids were not simple harrying, but river campaigns striking deep into the country. Dublin was developing into a permanent base for Viking activity, as well as the largest slave trade center in Western Europe. And he was getting reinforcements. As Frankish silver started to run dry and the Frankish resistance stiffened, Danish Vikings increasingly showed up in Dublin. And to the horror of the Irish, Thorgest proved to be the rare Scandinavian leader who could govern a coalition of both Norwegians and Danes. He began founding other cities, Cork, Wexford, and Waterford. In 844, he sailed to Limerick and raided the city, hoisting his wife up on an altar where she could declare shamanistic prophecies from Odin. He spoke of conquering all Ireland as a new Scandinavian kingdom. And alarmingly, this display of power began to attract local converts. Get-rich-quick raids and the riotous Viking lifestyle lured some Irish into their cultural fold. And soon, there was a generation of half-Scandinavian, half-Irish children inhabiting the proto-city. The High Kings knew Thorgest had to be stopped. They set aside their civil war and concentrated on the Viking threat. Their main target, Thorgest himself. With him
There's
removed
3 up there.
the Norse-Danish alliance would fall apart. And a year after the Limerick raid, the High King of Tara got lucky.
You need to heal. Where you at? Come back to me.
He captured Thorgest. But history does remember his execution. The High King
Or
bound
run
his
away
limbs,
from me.
weighed him with stones,
Coming right
and
back.
threw him in a river. Thorgest's death precipitated a stunning reversal. Native Irish forces began pushing Viking territory back towards the coasts. Dublin descended into violence. With the uniting figure of Thorgest removed, warbands split by national affiliation
and
in
light
a
if
civil
anyone's
war.
using any.
The Irish Vikings, semi-outsiders in this Scandinavian city, fought for whichever side promised the best deal. On one side was the Norse Olaf the White, and on the other was the Danish Ivar the Boneless, son of Ragnar Lothbrok. But just as the two sides seemed destined to destroy each other, the leaders held a conference. There was too much to lose, they agreed. True, without Thorgest, there was no hope of turning Ireland into a Scandinavian state, but there was still money to be made. Scandinavian cities in Ireland remained valuable trade centers and good bases to gather Vikings for campaigns in the Anglo-Saxon kingdom. Ivar and his brothers dreamed of rallying a great heathen army to attack the Anglo-Saxons. And if they succeeded in capturing territory there, the agricultural lands of England and the trade center of Dublin could link up in a powerful North Sea empire.
Are we going to, we're going to go third party this?
Territory in Pickland, modern-day Scotland. They partitioned the city and began gathering forces, and they were marching up. The English Danelaw did become a Viking power center, though, as we mentioned in a different series, it was Halfdan and Guthrum, rather than Ivar, who realized that dream. Indeed, a later Sea King would briefly unite Dublin and Viking York under one rule, but the kingdom didn't outlive him. These campaigns against the Anglo-Saxons and Picts doomed the Viking project in Ireland. Dublin experienced a chronic manpower shortage by the 870s, as new raiders from Scandinavia decided to chase opportunities in England and Scotland rather than reinforcing old conquests in Ireland. Because Vikings had no central control,
So
there
how many
was
people
no
are
way
down?
to follow up success.
I'm trying to
Attrition
find 'em. I
started to
can't
take
see
a toll.
anybody red.
Dublin men that left to fight in England
all dead
rarely
already?
returned.
I don't know. I
Bit
knocked
by
one
bit,
on the
the
way
Irish
in.
reclaimed their lost ground.
Yeah, I knocked the
In
Gibby,
980,
and then we
the
knocked
king
the
of
lifeline.
Meath
so that's
defeated
two.
the Viking king
I
Olaf
just
the
don't see
Red at the
footsteps
hill of
anywhere.
Tara, killing his sons and forcing the pagan to,
I mean, there's only 2 death
flee
boxes
to
down.
a monastery. Viking Dublin endured, but only as a minor ally bartered between larger Irish factions.
Weird.
Scandinavian power in Ireland was over. It would fall to Brian Boru, king of Munster, to finally destroy the Scandinavians. He turned Viking tactics against the invaders, using ships and shield walls to drive the pagans in Western Ireland into the sea. But this victory came at a steep price. At the Battle of Clontarf in 1014, Boru finally ended Viking Ireland. Yet as he knelt in his tent, praying for victory, a retreating Danish mercenary entered and butchered him with an axe. The king
Never mind, I found a 3rd
but
box.
his army won, freeing Ireland from pagan occupation. Though that's probably just legend. After all, by this time, Ireland was not under foreign occupation. In fact, the Scandinavians in Ireland had largely assimilated. These so-called Vikings were Christian, born in Ireland, had Irish heritage, and lived in a Gaelic Norse hybrid society. In fact, many men from Viking cities like Cork and Wexford fought on Boru's
I think
side.
they went this way
These
then.
were simply Irish kingdoms fighting other Irish kingdoms. But national myths are often built on legend, and Boru's victory over the supposed foreign Vikings became a rallying point for Irish identity that continues today. In fact, Boru's trademark instrument, the harp, became the symbol of Ireland. Though Viking conquest in Ireland lasted a brief period, around 150 years, their presence
More flying in on
radically
the
changed
zip.
island. It linked Ireland into Scandinavian trade networks, with Irish goods and enslaved people traveling as far as Anatolia while receiving previously unknown products in return. And the island began showing up in Arab atlases. In short, it made the world aware of Ireland and opened Ireland to the world. But there was a darker side to this trade. By founding Dublin, Scandinavians had reintroduced...
Whoa, there's a whole nother team coming in. There's a 3rd party, right?
in a way it had not
I'm moving
been
around
before.
that. I'm moving around
Slavery
that.
had previously existed in ancient Ireland, but St. Patrick, who had experienced the practice himself, labeled
I'm
it
just gonna
sinful
craft him.
and stamped
Maybe
it out
craft
through
you if you go
preachings
down.
and writing. But these new Scandinavian lords had no qualms about keeping Irish thralls, and in time, the Irish began enslaving Scandinavians as a way of turning the tables. The trade would continue another 2
pick me up
centuries,
if you can.
only declining when the Normans invaded both
they're
England and
rezzing.
Ireland, introducing feudalism in place of old slave systems. So just to recap real quick, the Viking Normans ended the Viking slave system in Ireland. Yeah, history is weird.
30 seconds.
860. The Patriarch of Constantinople looks down from the city walls to see a fleet of ships. Ships with dragons on their prows. The Vikings are about to meet the heirs of Rome. The Viking Age truly began in the
I'll
east.
go to the middle one.
40 years before the raid on Lindisfarne, Swedish Vikings were already trading with Arctic nomads in Finland, using settlements there as a jumping-off point to raid and explore lands in modern Latvia and Lithuania. The Vikings took with them Finnish translators who introduced the Swedes using the Finnish word for them, a name the Slavic people of the Baltics pronounced Rus. The name stuck,
What's up with the
newly christened
cockatoo?
Rus Vikings began their first tentative expeditions. These eastern lands were promising, rich in timber and amber, with a political landscape that was too fragmented to offer much defense. And best of all, there were rivers. Rivers that led to trade centers richer than any in Western Europe. The Volga tracked south to the Caspian Sea in Baghdad, the Dnieper to the Black Sea.
Give it a break.
Initially, they focused on the Volga as the more easily navigated option. Here, their flat-bottomed light ships proved just as perfect for river navigation as they had in Western Europe, allowing the Rus to sail in shallow water and drag their vessels several kilometers if they needed to avoid obstacles or transfer to another waterway. They sailed south, encountering a stunning array of peoples and cultures: forest-dwelling Slavs, nomadic steppe peoples, Turkish tribes, and the multi-ethnic, multi-religious lands of the Khazars. En route, they'd capture locals to increase their cargo of slaves. Once through the Khazar lands, they could launch their boats on the Caspian Sea, cross into modern-day Iran, and join the Abbasid caravan routes to the jewel of the Muslim world, Baghdad. There, they could exchange their northern cargoes of honey, furs, and enslaved humans for silver coin, spices, and Chinese silk. But often, it was unnecessary to go all the way to Baghdad. These rivers were dangerous, even for battle-hardened Viking crews, especially during the sections where they had to drag their ships over land. In the east, the Rus Vikings were strangers in a strange land, operating without local allies. Often, it was smarter to settle down and become merchant princes, trading goods up and down river and selling supplies to passing ships. Gradually, fortified Scandinavian settlements began springing up along the Volga and Dnieper. And that is where we get our first records. Records of a Viking named Rurik. Rurik and his crew arrived in modern Russia sometime in the 850s, raiding, trading, and looking for a place to settle. He established a fortified market town at a point where several rivers met and called it Holmgard. Today we know it by the Slavic name of Novgorod. And it was Rurik's Vikings who first attacked Constantinople. The raid would set a pattern for future military encounters between the Rus Vikings and the Byzantines. And it has to be said that this Viking contingent was incredibly lucky. It caught the city undefended during a period when the Byzantine Emperor Michael the Drunkard yes, really, had taken the army on campaign. The longships approached without warning, striking the surrounding villages and monasteries before the peasants and monks could flee. These were ideal conditions. The Rus would never get a better chance to take what they called Miklgarde, the great city. And yet, they failed hard, because Constantinople had walls, big ones. Vikings did poorly during sieges, a lesson that, unlike Western Europe, the Byzantines had already learned from centuries of fighting barbarians. City officials simply shut the Rus out and paraded holy relics until a storm wrecked the fleet, driving the Northmen away. This was only the first of several Rus attacks. After all, the prospect of conquering this great city was nearly as irresistible as it was unrealistic. Most sieges ended with the Byzantine navy driving the Vikings off with flamethrowers. Yes, you didn't mishear me there. I said flamethrowers, specifically Greek fire, a petroleum-based combustible the Byzantines packed into hand grenades or sprayed from brass nozzles. The Viking longships had no defense. But these raids weren't complete catastrophes. The first led to trade negotiations, and each subsequent campaign won the Rus Vikings a better trade deal. Indeed, they may have counted on this. There was no real downside. If they won, the Rus would capture a massive trading hub. And if they lost, they'd get a more favorable treaty. So they lost, and within 50 years, the Rus had favored trading rights and their own district in the city. These trade links with Byzantium supercharged the Rus expansion plans. Rurik and his family founded new market towns along the rivers, moving their capital to the developing trade city of Kiev, and started taking more territory. No longer merchant princes, they were now the Grand Princes of Kiev, forming not just a kingdom, but a dynasty. And increasingly, they were working for the Byzantines. See, the Rus had something Constantinople needed just as much as slaves, honey, and furs: soldiers. Those early raids had impressed the Byzantine military. Sure, these barbarians weren't any match for any professional military, but they were formidable when deployed as shock troops with the backing of the Byzantine navy and regular army. At this point, the empire started drowning Rus mercenaries in gold, eventually forming them into a special unit called the Varangian Guard. In peace, they served as the emperor's elite bodyguard, and in war, they spearheaded assaults and beach landings. But this contact with Byzantium also changed the Rus Vikings, introducing them to Orthodox Christianity and imperial administration. As generations passed, Rus culture evolved, drifting further from Scandinavian norms. Yes, they might live in the lands of the Rus, but these Scandinavians were always ruling as a minority, a military elite that had to adapt to local customs and intermarry in order to keep power and preserve alliances. Indeed, one of their most pivotal rulers, Olga of Kiev, was probably part Slav. Olga found herself catapulted into politics when her husband, one of Ruik's sons, died in an argument over tribute. Reportedly, a nearby Slavic tribe executed him in the most Looney Tunes method possible, bending two saplings together, tying a leg to each, and letting them go. Afterward, the tribesmen came and proposed that she marry their prince, the same prince who'd just killed her husband. A prince that would surely disinherit or kill their 3-year-old son. Olga's response, though probably exaggerated, became legend. First, she buried the diplomats alive. Then, she sent their prince a letter of acceptance. But she added, the current diplomats were an insufficient honor guard for a woman of her status. If the prince could send the leading men of his city to escort her, she would gladly accept. When they arrived, she offered them use of her own bathhouse, then locked them inside and burned it down. She then drafted another letter, stating that she was coming to the prince's city to proclaim her love. So excited by the match that she'd outrun the entourage he'd so kindly sent. But for her people to accept the match, her new betrothed would have to hold a funeral feast for her late husband. As a sign of submission, her men would serve the food and wine. Once everyone was drunk, her guards massacred the prince and his remaining lords. Not done yet, she put the leaderless city under siege. But as a sign of mercy, she asked only for a small tribute, a bird from the thatched roof of each house. When she got them, she tied smoldering rags to the birds' feet, released them, and watched as the animals returned home, setting the city alight. Again, this story is likely folklore, but the point stands. Olga was not to be trifled with. Olga's regency marked a turning point for the Rus. She ended the hated tribute system, replacing it with a stable tax and giving rulers more autonomy in their own lands. She also forged closer ties with Constantinople, converting to Eastern Christianity and encouraging the development of churches and monasteries in Rus territory. People in her lifetime were slow to abandon their pagan beliefs, but things were shifting. The Rus were becoming less Scandinavian. Olga's son may have been an able boatman and pagan like his Swedish father, but in dress and manner, he resembled the Slav and steppe nomads he ruled, more of a Tsar or Khan than a Jarl. He would be the last Grand Prince of Kiev to hold both a Scandinavian and Slavic name. He would also die in an ambush and have his skull made into a drinking cup, but that's a story for another time. It would be Olga's grandson, Vladimir, who would convert to Christianity, though only because the Byzantine emperor needed help putting down a rebellion and he offered his sister in marriage. Upon his conversion, Vladimir would Christianize the Rus by force, burning pagan images and driving the population of Kiev to the river at Spear Point for a mass baptism. He then tempered his ways a bit, becoming famous for giving alms and promoting literacy by using the Greek-influenced Cyrillic writing system. The kingdom of the heathen Rus fell apart during the Mongol invasion, but memory of it would live on through the centuries, causing a later kingdom to reach back into the past to borrow its name, Russia.
I led that team into their death at least.
Ingolr Aronsson sees the coast of the island and drops his pillars, the totems that mark him as a chieftain, into the water. Wherever they wash up, he decides, will be his home. Let Thor choose the place. 3 years later, the party finds the pillars washed up in a rocky bay. Steam from volcanic springs masks the shore. He christens the place Smoky Bay, after its volcanic steam. And so, Ingolr made his home in a place called Reykjavik. Medieval Scandinavians were talented boat builders, sailors, and warriors. Navigation, however, let's just say it wasn't their strongest point. Oh, they could chart a basic stars and signs, of course, but they tended to stick within sight of the shore and island hop when they had the option. In bad conditions, Viking navigation was more dead reckoning than anything. And sometimes that led to embarrassment. Like when one party of Vikings cruised the Mediterranean, bragging how they'd sacked the mighty city of Rome, only to find out they'd gotten lost and attacked a smaller city instead. I'd be so embarrassed. But at other times, those mistakes led to discoveries, as it was with Iceland. The Norwegian who discovered it had in fact aimed at the Faroe Islands and missed. He glimpsed the glacial interior and named it Snowland. A second accidental explorer reached the coast in a storm and circumvented it, proving that the new territory was an island. Neither knew that Irish monks had lived there decades before. Finally, someone got there on purpose. A man named Floki, who'd heard stories from the first two men. He sailed northwest from the Faroe Islands, locating the island by the somewhat dubious method of releasing ravens in different directions and heading towards the one that didn't come back. Still, he got there, even though it won him the derisive nickname Raven Floki. He found the summers pleasant and green, but decided to pack up after the first long, dark winter. Raven Floki returned with stories of a harsh land, difficult to settle, riven by glaciers and volcanoes. He named it Iceland. There was one very attractive thing about Iceland. It was fun, and in more ways than one. Land was becoming hard to get, a fact that may have driven the Viking expansion as a whole. And rising kings like Harald Fairhair were building a centralized state, cracking down on the freewheeling frontier spirit of the Scandinavian homelands. Iceland offered a tempting solution to those who were tired of scratching out a living on shrinking plots of land, those who had been caught up in blood feuds, those with authority problems, misfits who didn't fit into Scandinavian society or were too wild for their homelands. And as an added bonus, this island was uninhabited. After all, not everyone who wanted land was willing to stab Anglo-Saxon warriors to death for it. That was dangerous. Here there were farms for the taking, with no armed opposition. So when Ingolor settled at Reykjavik, he set off a land scramble.
Bunkmaster says, do it outside at Solar Pots.
For example,
Bunkmaster says, M.
the Deep-Minded, widow of the famous Dublin ruler Olaf the White.
Scrappy
When
DP
both her
says,
husband and son were
Bunkmaster
killed,
Flex.
The story goes, Oath ordered a Canar built and loaded her remaining family and retainers into it. She personally captained the ship to Iceland, claiming a bay in the northwest and heading the community there. When she died, she was given a ship burial, an honor usually reserved for men. Indeed, the Icelandic sagas are full
Scrappy
of tales
DP
where
says,
women,
get
some
me
of them
wherever.
Irish or English slaves,
If not, no
run
worries.
settlements and serve as influential members in settler families. And the archaeological records appear to bear this out, with a large number of women from the British Isles among Icelandic burials, sometimes with high-status grave goods. And let's talk about those sagas for a moment, because it's from Iceland where we get the greatest collection of
What? You can do that?
Whether it was due to the long winters giving time to write, the wide availability of
I'm about to get fucked. I can see them coming at me though.
to develop community identity in a land without traditional political divisions, medieval Iceland experienced a literary explosion. And since there was no central authority serving as a patron or censor, there were no limits on what could be put down. The works included family histories, settlement narratives, stories of war, and Scandinavian religious myths. These tales were
I don't come back with a weapon.
until the 13th century, when people started to write them
Bunkmaster
down in the
says,
form we know today.
my death ensured
It's
your
one of
survival.
Iceland's greatest cultural treasures.
Well, thanks,
And
Mr.
the
Bunk.
uniquely decentralized society that allowed this literary revolution also had a decentralized form of government. After all, these misfits and independents had fled to Iceland to get away from lords like Harald Fairhair. So after 930, this Icelandic Commonwealth, also known as the Icelandic Free State, operated on a system similar to village legal assemblies back in Norway. The chieftains would gather together a representative assembly called an Althing, a type of early parliament that settled disputes and made or amended laws. Uniquely, the legal code was not written and depended on an office holder called the law speaker, who could recite the code from beginning to end. Trials would involve parties bringing a lawsuit, which were then judged by members of the assembly, forming a jury.
Later versions even had a national assembly and an early Supreme Court. And in the year 1000, the Althing addressed what would be its most momentous decision. Christian missionaries had nearly completed Europe's conversion, and as one of the few pagan lands left, Iceland was under pressure from trade partners to convert. But that was only half the issue. Many Icelanders were now Christian as well, and it seemed like a civil war was brewing. So the Althing gathered and chose one chieftain, himself a pagan, to mediate the dispute. Would Iceland convert or stay pagan? After mulling it over for a day and
I just have a wingman in the
he gave his
Spitfire,
decision.
so
Iceland
they ain't
would
very
be
good.
Christian. But pagans could practice their beliefs in private without fear. The Althing was
But we're
not
close
a
to the
perfect
ring,
system.
so as long as we just stay here, we're
Gradually,
good.
a few powerful families
Let a couple
became
more
entrenched
teams
in
die.
power,
Try to
bending
take as
or
many
breaking
rank points as we
institutions
can.
that suited them.
Then I'm gonna go mow my
Centuries
lawn.
later, these conditions
I'm gonna hit
led
the
to
bowl
what
real
the
quick.
Althing feared, a
Bunkmaster
civil war.
says,
Though it
call
was a
me in
political
outside.
one, not religious,
Gravidon
that
TV
eventually
says,
left the island
or
under Norse
SQDS.
control. But despite how it would end, this
Bunkmaster
relatively
says,
equitable,
solar
self-governing
pods.
commonwealth
I don't know what that
did
means.
govern itself for nearly 2 centuries, at a time
Gravidon
when most
TV
of Western
says,
Europe lived
too
under
far to
kings
rest.
and princes. But Iceland wasn't for everyone. Eric the Red arrived at the age of 10 when his father was banished from Norway after a killing. Violence must have run in the family.
I'm letting him
because
come
at
in,
982, Eric
because I don't want to give
with
us
his
away.
neighbor and
He's
ended
inside
up
though, so
killing
they're gonna
him.
come to us.
The family brought a
Let them go
lawsuit,
try and get that guy.
banished him
They'll
from
do some
Iceland
damage. I'm
for
a third
3
party
years.
it.
So he relocated to an island off England. But he
That'll give us
almost
down to
immediately
3.
got into an argument with his new neighbor and ended up killing a few more men. Clearly, that wasn't going to work out. So he had to find somewhere new to settle, preferably somewhere with even fewer laws and no neighbors. And that's when Eric remembered stories he'd heard about a man who'd blown off course and sighted a new land, northwest of Iceland. Another Norwegian had tried to settle there, but given up, speaking of it as harsh and empty. Sounded like Eric's kind of place. He packed up his family and went there, rounding the southern tip of the island and cruising up its western side. Eric found a land locked in ice, the kind of place Iceland would be like if it didn't have the warmer Atlantic currents or volcanic activity to moderate the chill. And Iceland was already tough. Only those who worked hard raised enough to eat. But this land was tougher. If he wanted to survive here, he'd need more colonists than just his family. Only a community could support human life. In other words, you guessed it, he'd need some neighbors. And he saw opportunity here. Iceland was getting overcrowded, its small areas of cultivated land unable to support the swelling population. So 3 years later, Eric arrived back in Iceland to recruit more colonists. Ever persuasive, he spun tales of the lush new land he discovered to the west, where there were farms for the taking and men could truly live.
You're basically in here.
And like any shady real estate developer, he gave it a name that, while maybe not completely accurate, rang with the sound of prosperity. He called it Greenland. 986. Bjarni was not looking for a new land. He was looking for his family. He'd left them in Iceland, but when he returned, he found they'd gone with Eric to Greenland. But the Icelanders hadn't been able to tell him where Greenland was exactly. They just said it was an inhospitable, rocky land to the west. So, he sailed west. And missed. Blown off course. This was the wrong place. There were too many trees. It was too full of resources to be the hardscrabble Greenland. His family was not here. So Bjarni, the first European to sight the New World, turned back east without landing. 999. Leif Erikson was nothing like his father, Eric the Red. He was temperate and thoughtful, a polite man. But that was only part of the reason the two were at each other's throats. The colonists of Greenland, at least those that survived the crossing, had found this new land wasn't exactly the paradise Eric had promised. But they could hunt and fish for a living, trading seal skins and walrus ivory. Under Eric's leadership, they developed a stable, though not comfortable, society. Then Eric's son Leif came and messed it up.
They're moving out the backside of that other
To
structure.
seek service with the king. Upon
There's a
arriving,
team under us,
the
and there's
monarch
one at
had
the backside.
immediately converted him to Christianity.
I
and
got
sent
a
him to Greenland with a mission to evangelize.
launch pad we could use too.
Successful. That was the problem. See, Eric was an avowed pagan, and this son of his had even managed to convert his mother, cooling their marriage. So, like his father before him, Life thought that maybe he'd do a little exploring while things calmed down. After all, he'd heard Bjarne's stories about a forested land to the west, and thought it was worth checking out, because Greenland practically had no timber. So, Life bought Bjarne's medicine, recruited some of his remaining crew, and took out to find this land of trees. The first island he found was instead
Why didn't you get me?
stones. He called it
What just
Flatstone
happened?
Land. From there, he traveled south to an area of dense forest, which he named Forest Land. Shakespeare, life was not. He eventually reached the more temperate area with good salmon runs and meadowlands, where he decided to build a settlement for the winter while half the crew explored. And they hit the jackpot. They'd seen plentiful game and timber, but more importantly, they came back with baskets of wine grapes, which Life and his crew, of course, turned into alcohol. And finally, Life had a brainstorm to match his father's brilliant christening of Greenland. He called the new land, drumroll please, Vineland. Huh? Though a quick aside, they may not have actually been grapes. Scandinavians tend to call any berry a wine grape, so it's possible these were actually currants, blackberries, or gooseberries. But hey, they could be fermented. So, score. Come summer, Life loaded his ship with timber and wine berries, flush with success. By all accounts, the expedition was a triumph. And on his way back, he even rescued some shipwrecked men stranded on a rock. A deed that earned him the nickname, Life the Lucky. But when they hit Greenland, his luck ended. The same year they'd arrived in Vineland, plague arrived in Greenland. Life's father, Eric, was one of the victims. The settlement turned to Life for leadership. This meant no more voyages. Life had to settle down. But he still believed in Vineland as a settlement. It had the timber Greenland so sorely needed. So he passed the mantle of explorer to his brother, Thorvald. Thorvald's journey seemed charmed at first. His crew easily found Life's settlement and survived off the sea their first winter. But as they explored further along the coast, they discovered something ominous. A shed. There were others here. But they also found the perfect settlement site, a place Thorvald said to make his home. Then they sighted long shapes up on the beach, 3 skin canoes. When they flipped them, they found 9 men underneath. Communication was impossible. The two groups didn't even share a root language. Violence followed. Thorvald and his men killed 8 of the strangers. 1 escaped. The Norsemen named these new people Skraelings. It may have meant screamers for their unfamiliar language, or dried skin, referring to their clothes. We're still unsure what they called themselves. But his first meeting of Europe and the First Nations, steeped with misunderstanding and violence, would prove prophetic. The man who escaped roused his village, and shortly, the village descended on the Norsemen. They sheltered in their ships, arrows bouncing off helmets, shields, and hard armor. Except one. A single shaft, carefully aimed, entered under Thorvald's arm. The beach where he'd planned to build his hall would instead be his grave. The death broke the men's resolve, and they returned to Greenland. Vineland was clearly dangerous. Life's second brother launched his own expedition, but he never made it, getting blown back to Greenland and dying of an illness. But one person in Life's family was still willing to try. His illegitimate half-sister, Freydis, a woman who inherited all of Eric's qualities that Life had somehow missed. Well, that's one theory. Others think that later Christian propagandists used the raging pagans Eric and Freydis as contrast to the wise Christian Life. But still, Freydis was a force. So when a rich Norwegian decided to launch a new expedition, Freydis pushed her husband to join up. They made Life's encampment without issue, and as summer came, met with the First Nations in a peaceful trade. At first, the native people wanted iron weapons, but the expedition leader forbid the trade, offering instead dairy products for skins. The trade complete, the sides withdrew in good spirits. And what happened next is still debated. Perhaps the lactose-intolerant native people thought they'd been poisoned by the milk and cheese. Perhaps they decided to attack the settlement and take their weapons. Or maybe a rival tribe noticed the trade and wanted to eliminate this new, powerful ally. In some versions, the Norsemen kill a man who tries to reach for an axe. Whatever the reason, someone attacked the settlement in force. The Norsemen had superior weapons and armor. The attackers had numbers. Soon the settlers broke, rushing for the ships. Native warriors entered the compound and saw a pair of horrors. The first was a bellowing, charging bull, an animal completely alien to the attackers. In the panic, it had broken its fence and gone on a rampage. The second was Freydis. Infuriated by the retreat, she emerged from a house and, heavily pregnant, snatched up a fallen man's sword. She flew at the attackers, striking in every direction and howling that the Norsemen were cowards for running, that she could fight better than any of them. She tore open her dress and beat her chest with the blade. Seeing this, the attackers decided that, yeah, they weren't gonna mess with this mad woman and her horned monster. They made a quick retreat. Freydis had saved them, and for her trouble, she got, scolded for being unwomanly. What the, how? Way to go, history. Sorry. Despite surviving, this expedition was done. They couldn't hold out against determined assaults like that. No way. After another winter, they headed back to Greenland. But you know who wasn't done? Freydis. Heck no. There was still money to be made over there. She convinced her husband to set up a new expedition, but Freydis was really the one in charge. She convinced two brothers, recent arrivals from Norway, to join them and split the profits 50-50. They laid down ground rules as far as manpower, just so no one crew would have an advantage. And thus, you guessed it, the cheating began. When the expedition arrived, the brothers found Freydis had snuck 5 extra men aboard her ship, and she found out that they moved into Life's Hall, which was supposed to be hers. As you'd expect, things deteriorated through the winter, as the rival settlements aggravated each other in 100 small ways. Finally, Freydis had enough. She manufactured a crisis, telling her husband that one of the brothers struck her and badgered him into taking revenge. They came upon the rival settlement at night, binding the sleeping men before killing them. Freydis' revenge was almost complete, except her men refused to kill the settlement's 5 women. Hand me an axe, she said. They bribed everyone to secrecy and returned to Greenland. But the story leaked, as stories always do. Freydis went unpunished, but her reputation never recovered. And with that last burst of darkness, the Norse settlement on North America died. Greenland crews returned to harvest timber from time to time, but they didn't stay. Greenland itself, after all, was dying. The Rus trade networks moved business east, and the Scandinavian homelands lost interest in Greenland's seals and walrus ivory. By 1400, a change in climate known as the Little Ice Age made Scandinavian habitation increasingly difficult, and they were gradually supplanted by Proto-Inuits, perhaps the same people the settlers fought in Vineland, who moved east from North America. The Vineland colony, considered a mere curiosity, passed into myth and was largely forgotten. Which is interesting, because today, the Norse settlements in North America are by far the most famous products of the Viking expansion, yet they had the least impact of all their endeavors. As we've seen, the Vikings reshaped modern Europe. From Norway to Iceland, Ireland to Russia. Heck, we didn't even get to the impact on England. I'm figuring we'll leave that to our Danelaw episodes and a future series on 1066.
Hello?
Sure, the Vikings bounced off more organized states like the Byzantine Empire and Islamic kingdoms, but in areas of political chaos, they often proved the special ingredient to help create the countries we know today. So raise a drinking horn, friends. It's been our pleasure sailing with you. Thank you so much for watching this extra history complete on the Viking expansion. Hello, IRL Matt here in our animated coffee shop. If you enjoyed this revisit complete with tweaks based around your questions and comments Rob used in his Lies episode, please let us know in the comments below, because I would love to go back and revisit more series when we can, and if you guys like it, we will do it. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to the patrons who originally chose this topic. You guys always pick the best stuff. It's an absolute blast to work on stuff I know you're gonna dig.
Hi dude, I noticed your content and not too long but recently. Have you been messaged by any of the partners / affiliate programmer?
I will just
If not, let's share the idea then. No strings attached.
Sure he's not doing anything.
Reach me on Discord, add me with the name
Every extra
Nikitic.
history series subject is chosen through a two-step process. First, lead EH writer Rob comes up with a theme. Something like the Napoleonic era, or anything but a war. Then, patrons get to send us a bunch of topics within that theme. We look them all over, get super impressed at the creativity y'all bring every single time, and then cut them down to a short list of final topics. And finally, we run a poll for our patrons to vote for their favorite, and bam! A patron-chosen series is greenlit, and 6 weeks of content is born. So if you'd like to join our Patreon community, not only will you be helping us create the content that you love, but you'll also have access to a ton of cool perks, like having your name in the credits. Ooh, or having your name in the credits next to a custom bean art portrait of your face, or viewing all of our shows 24 hours early, or an invitation to our official Discord to chat it up, or exclusive 4K wallpapers and never-before-seen digital posters, or 20% off our merch store where you can and should totally snag this sweet Zoe shirt, and a lot more. Wait, that last part got away from me, but you get where I'm going with this, right? So whether you'd like to join an awesome community, help forge the future of extra history, see your name on the little screen, or just want to make sure we can keep creating all our shows, please consider becoming a patron via the link below. We would very much appreciate it. Plus, you know, if you do, you'll be joining the splendiferous ranks of Ahmed Ziad Turk, Angelo Valenciana, Arcolite Games, Dominic Valenciana, Ilkner, Izzy Coin, Joseph Flame, and Kuyakoi for being the absolute best legendary patrons.
Those guys totally split up. One's lying over here.
Enemies drop down near me.
Drill's hunting for eggs. Care package on its way. Sweet as. You kill leaders killed their way to the top.
What?
Target over there.
I just gotta say for the record.
Being shot at.
Real shit, man.
Reloading.
I was a little offended by the fact that Validity would just assume that I'll just give it up like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't just give it up like that. I really don't. So let's let that be known. So I'm just gonna say
Taking fire.
This we need to do together.
Oh my fucking god. Dude,
Yo, I'm
Whatever.
paused.
Drill's tearing through.
I had a Moby on me, but he definitely nabbed.
Thought it was a joke,
my
but it's
shit.
weird now. Dude, if you were
Was he just riding or what?
Yeah, he was just riding the corner.
You're like, nah, I'm not doing it.
This is not my first
You would of
time.
course do it.
I've got a Moby as well. I don't die.
You are spitting in their face. You're going. That's what you're doing. You're spitting in their gut. Don't pretend like you love that, alright? Don't lie. You are spitting in their goddamn face. Big said. Really committed to that.
I gotta call my mom.
Do you think you can make it to that crafter for his, or? Cause I'd like to get my shit back.
Attention, delivery replicator.
Replicator's coming in.
There's a bloodhound that's.
You know, I really just don't miss this.
They took the blue.
Okay.
I'll be honest, Dad, I really just don't miss this. It was nice for like a week. Alright, well, that's enough. I think that's enough, right? We can agree.
Listen, whatever you're about to say, if it ain't tech news, I don't want it.
I have to hurry.
People used to enjoy
I think your stuff's right there, is it not?
In a shocking example of rival technologies working together, it's been confirmed that NVIDIA's DLSS upscaling tech and AMD's FSR frame generation can both
Once you res, I'd just try to shake off if I was you.
the PC version of no sooner did the game launch on Steam yesterday than Twitter user Bluehook posted about reaching clarified that using both features together can lead to a notable FPS boost, though I'm sure there may be some issues to iron out if the immune system rejects the foreign tissue. The existence of this unholy
Looks like a care
alliance of
package is
features
coming in.
is thanks
Big
to
things in that.
NVIDIA locking DLSS frame rate to RTX 40 series cards, indeed decoupling its frame gen tech from the rest of its allowing AMD to
What are you doing? You're
net.
You're dead now. Fucking moron. What is this lobby?
OpenAI and Reddit have announced a deal that will allow ChatGPT to access real-time Reddit posts through the site's API, while Reddit will be bringing new AI-powered features to Redditors and mods. Naturally, Redditors were starting to get upset and make a big stink about this when, oh, look, Reddit awards are back after being taken away last year. Oh, they even said they're sorry they messed up and they're gonna give coins back to users who lost them. Oh, wow, that... Wait, what was I talking about before? Was it Sony declaring that they hereby opt out of AI being trained on any of their content? Maybe. Maybe everybody should opt out, because according to former and current OpenAI employees, it's not just that a few people have left due to disagreements about the company's priorities. The entire super alignment team, responsible for ensuring the company's products stay aligned with the interests of humanity rather than the interests of new flirtatiously giggly AIs, has been dissolved and spread among other departments. The same day this news came out, Sam Altman's priority was to apparently throw shade at Google I/O's aesthetic, despite claiming he doesn't think about competitors too much. 3 days after, he timed an OpenAI event to undercut Google's for the second time this year. I mean, I kind of believe him. I would guess the only thing that he thinks about a lot is the moment when he'll turn on the machine god and it will say, "Well done, my servant, you who never lost faith," before morphing its arm into a blade and slicing his head off. One day. In a motion filed this morning, Google says it wrote the US government a cashier's check for triple the maximum amount of damages claimed in the Department of Justice's ongoing lawsuit over Google's anti-competitive advertising practices. Now, Google says this makes any claim of monetary damages moot, because how could you have missed out on money when you have a check right there for all the money? I mean, it's right there on the table. We all see it. Google's motion also seeks to have a judge, rather than a jury, preside over the upcoming trial. And to be fair, the DOJ's demand for a jury trial has been described by some legal experts as unprecedented for this kind of case. But a jury would also mean a marked increase in the amount of checks Google would have to write to make this all go away. So it's probably worth it just for that reason. Why make it easier for them? And it's also worth it to check out today's sponsor, Odoo, if you need a website, which you probably do. Let's say you got no coding experience and very limited time, but you need to create a website to grow your very niche, custom-wrapped traffic cone business. Well, with Odoo, it's easier than you'd think. Their code-free drag-and-drop elements and AI copywriter give you all the tools you need to get your site up and running quickly. And the best part, it's free. You'll even get unlimited hosting, reliable support, and a free custom domain for an entire year. Visit the link below and start creating your own free website with Odoo. Quick bits, quick bits, quick bits. That's kind of my default conversation opener. Do you think it's good, or should I change it? ASUS has acknowledged and apologized for any confusion and frustration experienced by their customers following widespread complaints about the company's warranty and repair processes. Yeah, issuing preposterous repair bills to customers whose products were, crucially, not fully repaired does sound a bit frustrating. ASUS has committed to revising their pricing structure and improving communication with their customers. And to sweeten the deal, they even accidentally leaked one of these Snapdragon X-powered laptops they're probably going to announce on Monday. Ooh, it's got an Intel Qualcomm Adreno GPU? All is forgiven, ASUS. That's pretty good. Microsoft's PC Manager, a combination security and utility tool currently only available in certain regions, is apparently giving users repair tips, suggesting that they fix their PC by reverting their default search engine back to Bing. That's doing the opposite, but okay. Well, Microsoft has already explored putting ads in the start menu and even the system settings, implying that listing DuckDuckGo as a default is an error in your computer is a new low in Microsoft's quest to shove ads into every possible orifice of Windows 11. It can't breathe. Give it a break. And that's even compared to the old new low it hit last week and the old new low it hit the week before. They are on a roll here. Another major milestone has been achieved in the quest for a quantum internet, an infrastructure that would enable unparalleled security during data transfer, among other things. 3 teams of researchers have developed different memory modules that allowed extremely fragile quantum information to travel tens of kilometers through existing fiber optic cables. Now, for the layman, this means we're one step closer to every Silicon Valley startup slapping the word quantum on whatever the hell they're working on. Google and Harvard scientists have successfully mapped the human brain, or at least around 1 cubic millimeter of it. What have you done? This mind map was created by taking an itsy bitsy piece of brain and then slicing it into 5,000 super thin wafers, which is a gross word to use when it comes to human organs.
Brain cookie. Neurological biscuit.
This is getting worse. They then took around 1.4 petabytes of images of the slices and recombined them using AI imaging to figure out the roots of tens of thousands of neurons and their millions of connections. At least one neuron had over 5,000 connection points leading to other neurons, and some axons, aka signal-carrying nerve fibers, were super tightly coiled together. What does this mean? I don't really have any idea, and the scientists didn't either, but I like to think maybe that's where the brain keeps the memories of every stupid thing you've ever said at a party. Why not? And private astronaut / billionaire Jared Isaacman wants to foot the bill for a commercial spacewalking mission to save the aging Hubble telescope. What a guy. The planned mission would use a SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule, which not only doesn't have a robotic arm to attach itself to the telescope, SpaceX also hasn't even proven a spacewalk is possible from their capsule yet. Remember, won't believe this, but NASA fight ain't over until we win. SpaceX's Polaris program is meant to host the first spacewalk by private astronauts, including Isaacman. But the first flight keeps getting delayed. Isaacman said back in January that we're running out of time to save Hubble, but the telescope is expected to last into the 2030s. Maybe we have a couple of years to think of, I don't know, literally anything else? But the only thing I'm thinking of right now is whether you'll come back on Monday for more tech news. It's gonna be all this Snapdragon X stuff. And the Microsoft services. It's gonna be good.
I'm the jump master. AJ Shea leading the way.
I would plan. I'm very good at planning for me because I know what I like and I know what I want to do. But I am such a almost like a people pleaser in the sense that when I have to plan for other people, it makes me paralyzed and I just can't do it anymore because I feel like I'm imposing what I want on other people and then I get anxious and I'm like, oh, no one wants to do this because, but I can help. If you're help me look for a place. I'm good at. I'm asking people to do stuff that I want to do. Makes me so anxious.
Get ready.
They're not gonna have fun, and it's gonna be all my fault. And then nobody's gonna have fun.
I get rejected so much that I always ask people so it's I just accept feedback. I look at people with a lens this age where it's oh, they're my friends and they would hate me at the time. It's definitely not because they hate me or they're not rejecting me. Because they're busy, surely.
But shit, there's people everywhere here, bro. Who brought me here?
Remarkable year for awful horror movies. Every single month we're getting a brand spanking new disaster of horror delivered to the big screen and being charged over $10 for, which should be criminal for movies that are this bad, like Tarot and now Strangers Chapter 1. It blows my mind just how frequently they are putting out these revolting messes. No matter how you look at this movie or how generous you try to be with it, there is nothing to like. It is a pile of dog shit. It's actually worse than that. It's real dog shit like the hands of the... It's at least...
What the fuck? I got hit from behind? Holy... I think there's 3 teams there or something.
Isn't very good. I'm sure, no doubt, most of you were able to sniff that out. I was trying to be very subtle with my critique off rip, be unbiased, but it's just hard with how bad this movie
Get ready. Today is not gonna be easy.
This is your champion.
I'm the jump master. No straying, no. Enough lambing around. We dropping.
Attention. First blood.
I didn't see anyone with us.
Rings close. Still have a minute to mess around.
Did you guys see anyone with us?
45 seconds. Rings close. Recharging my shield.
Tossing a thermite.
Enemy over there. Thermite grenade set.
Ring closing in.
Arc star
I
set.
think there was 2 of them.
Tuck it down.
Reloading. Spotted. Taking fire.
In progress.
The ring's moving. Going to burn if we don't get inside.
I'm taking fire. I'm down but alive.
You and me left. Don't worry. I've been the mark over here. Got a target.
Come on. Stay on.
Mark's over here. Oh, got a mark here. The mark moves there.
What?
I could do this all day.
Well, I'm gonna quit on that one. That's some bullshit.
Still. You're lucky I like you.
That's bullshit.